Yeah. So what was last year was the only guy who did it. So I said, yeah, and it's still sneaky that they're building a recycling facility, but there's no one on the site. So there's somebody not really being totally. The problem is that they're going to get it. Right. Today is Monday, July 14th, 2025. I'd like to open the regularly scheduled meeting of the Townstown, New Hampshire Selectmen at 6 p.m. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members present this evening.
Kathleen Coliseum. Diane Board member.
Scott McConnell, John Harrington. Also present in the room this evening. Please be as loud as you can because of your condition.
Bo Pocket, Fire Department.
Danielle Cormier, resident.
Peter DeSantis, resident.
Bill Fowler, police department.
Armin Verville, resident.
Claudette Burville, resident.
I've got multiple committees.
Dave Bessie, Fire Department.
Mike Frasnell at EDC.
Chris Fowler, resident.
Keith Claus, school board rep.
Maureen Goldbeard, Budget Committee.
Chad Pellissier, road agent.
Aaron Hammond, fire chief.
Brian Osnell, building inspector, code enforcement. Ben Savage, driver, A&D, Fire Department. Warren Child, Fire.
John Early, fire department.
Anyone online tonight with this, Sean? No. Nobody online. Okay. We're going to move citizens' comments down because I think we have some people here this evening who are going to comment. Let me just remind you, when we do go to citizens' comments, 3 minutes apiece. And when I say 3 minutes, please stop. So choose your words carefully, and everyone will get to speak. First up on the regular agenda is Fire Chief Eric Lambert.
Eric Lambert, fire chief. So, a couple things, spoke with John today, just an update on the fire chief. I dealt with the roofer, another roofer to come look at the roof to repair the spot we needed to do. In that interim of doing that, while I was on the roof, he had me take a look at the pictures over there. And the holes that are in there line up the brackets with the panel. So he called me onto the roof, or the bottom roof, to look at it. To which I had took some pictures. I had him put a board across it to line up the brackets. To say that holes, there's 2 to 3 holes on there, and he sent more pictures. We did more investigating with this outside company that wasn't the solar company to find that there was roofing tire, looks like it had tripped through the holes. So lo and behold, I called the solar company and said, it's kind of ironic that these holes line up with the bracket. So it sounds as though that solar guard is going to take care of repairing the section of the roof where the shingles need to be replaced, the plywood needs to be replaced. Not the whole roof. We talked for about 45 minutes online. As soon as I have a quote from Nate Ducharme, from the roofing company that comes in, we're going to forward the roof quote to them. Sounds as though we're just going to get it. So if not, with the new information, I talked to John today about reapplying or opening up the claim for finance again. They're used to do it, saying there's good chance that it's not. But I know when I talked to Solar Gun, he's like, it sounds like this is what happened. The installer put the panels too far to the left, and they're very demanding on to make sure the building looks steady and pleasing. So they probably moved them over the 3 feet, put roofing tire in it. And in 8 years, the roofing tire obviously gets sinks through or melts somewhere else in the hot day. So stay tuned for hopefully some great news. I did only a second other thing I have for John is depending on what the school information tonight. I did have Eric Trottier from FireNet just drafting another proposal to update it to different rates and stuff for the school and or the fire class and training grounds as we get closer. So if I figure out popularly, training grounds is still being worked on. Peter has donated a lot of his time the first day, and we're going to be planning a few more days to try to get the training grounds done. So we can have ready for September for the first class. I'm hoping that we get there, because it takes a lot of time, and still a lot to do, cutting holes for windows, framing out the windows, building staircase. We had a good day the first day, and it's all 8 hours or so, so I think it went well. With one staircase in, some holes cut, we still have some inside work. And lastly, the first thing I'd like to do is take a moment to apologize to the board. Because I came into that non-public the last meeting, and I have a rule that, I would never want to tell you guys, that's the thing I'm saying. And I feel bringing in, as I spoke with Trish this week and kind of enlightened my brain to that, so it brought to light that I apologize for bringing the information kind of short notice. I think that, probably a little bit ahead of time and the time crunch of what was happening, sped up my brain, so. With that being said, I know that you guys had asked for more information, from the last meeting about getting information out, so. I did send John, last week, and there were some questions that were asked of me from Trish and Kathleen. I did my best to get the information together that I could at my level, my privileges. But I put this together and I sent it over on Friday for you guys to take. There's a lot of information. Trish had some very good questions, and I'm sure if you want to have any Trish about what they were. Questions wise, if you want any.
Read. The document that you sent to the email, so was that today?
I think it went out late today. I think there was an error in that, so.
I mean, that's up to you, if you want, copy it, others here.
Yes.
Yeah,
So essentially, I came to the board last week, and like I said, I know this was a non-public, but I'm perfectly okay with talking about it, because it was my issue and not something to bring up, is I asked the board, most people don't know, but the fire department has experienced the biggest growth we've had in probably the last 50 years. As we've grown, the ambulance service we took over a year ago has proven to be very busy. And I did put the numbers for you, Kathleen, get asked about the call numbers. I did put like the past 5 years now, so you can see the numbers. In 2022, we did 714 calls for the whole year. Right now, 641? 639. So for 6 months, just over 6 months, we did 639 calls. So it's predicted at the end of this year to be about 1,200. So we are extremely busy. I will tell you that the billing revenue is showing the same as we've gone along. So you guys, and I put that in there for you guys to look at too. Basically, we had predicted $180,000 for the year this year, being conservative. Within 5 months, right now, like I said, the information's in there, are about 200 in 5 months. So I predict us to be, if you go through the proposal, we decided to take over the ambulance service and the predictions. I think good work was done by all, because we are essentially at, we did $334,000 last year, and I think we're gonna be at that or more this year. So when we plan the budgets this year, we should be still conservative to make sure that that fund is set up for what it needs to be, with you to make sure that we're looking at our capital expenses in the future. So I have copies here if anybody wants. I brought some copies of the report too, just in case any of you have any questions. But essentially, if you look at the budget lines, and I put the reports in here the most I could, is last year, Sherry's Miller was here, and that's one thing I didn't factor on the last time she was in here, because I didn't factor on that, the health insurance savings for the year and the general idea of where the budget's at, and I could talk with John about it and looked at the numbers. Because essentially the budget is for the salary, for the retirement line for the town hall is only 35% spent for the year at 6 months, which should be around 50. The social security and other stuff is underspent for the year in the default budget. So the cost that I put forward, essentially the cost to do the full-time chief would be about $48 a year. So I would move to more, and I would work much like the police chief does now, when she takes shifts and works shifts. I would also cover overtime shifts sometimes when there's vacancies to make sure that you're covered so it doesn't happen. So essentially, the move to go to a full-time chief would cost approximately $48 for the whole year, and the rest of this year about $24. So just to bring the information for you guys, and I apologize, he sent over the stuff, I sent it over on Friday, but I think document size, when I scanned it, it took forever to go through, so I'm not sure if that whole process was timed up. But if you look through it, I did put all the information that was requested there. Like I said, it's some of the questions that were asked of me in regards to this particular retirement for the state. I did answer those. So I'm just asking for the reconsideration for this because the deputy's here now, and I appreciate the support of the people that came here too, but you didn't have to. But I brought the deputy here to kind of explain the position to you of his changes in work, and the other aspects of it, why I think that this position is needed. Not just for me specifically, for the department in general. I think that going forward, it's overwhelming. Like I said, I met with Trish, I talked about some of the stuff that is the burden, like you had asked about what some of the problems are there. And it's in the first, I think, she had asked a bunch of questions, which I think covered most of the stuff that we had talked about, or thought about, or think about that might cause it, why it would be an issue. One of the biggest things is we have had a full-time chief before in the past, and I did reach out to Paul St. Germain, and Chief Murray, who was here at the time, of why the transition of why we went back to part-time chief. And essentially what happened with that was Dana Pendergast was the full-time chief. He was asked to leave, and basically when they brought an MRI chief in for almost 2 months, and he left in November of 2018, and he had hired Paul St. Germain, or recommended Paul St. Germain. And part of the avenue of why he recommended Paul was because Paul worked a full-time job and couldn't take the full-time commitment. At the board at the time, and I'm not sure if Pete might have been on the board or Scott might have been on the board, was part of that transition is to go to a part-time chief because Paul couldn't work 40 hours a week. They did take some of the responsibilities, which was Dana Pendergast working as a building inspector. And that was part of the reason why, but then the building inspector became somebody else and then Brian. But now some of the justifications of things that have changed since then, if we are not having ambulance service, there's a whole list. If you read these pages here, if you want to take a minute to peruse it, all the questions are there. If there is a crap load more responsibilities when it comes to licenses and certifications, certifying an ambulance, going to meetings for the state. I have to go to the fire commissioners meetings, many meetings, and I have to calendar meetings I have to do with dispatch. I have to go at night to go to, and that's once a month, sometimes twice a month. So I've started to forego some of those meetings because of the time crunch. And one of the biggest questions I was asking is, I can't work over 26 hours a week for 1,352 hours a year. If I do, I am retired, but I forfeit half of my pension for a minimum of a year. So what we've been able to accomplish here at the fire department over the past 3 years has been good because I've had a lot of good staff that have the availability, but we've had a lot of changes. Melissa LaForte, which Chris asked me about, she stepped down as an EMS coordinator. So now I've had to take those tasks on and I divided it a little bit out. Fish had asked a question about could we delegate some of the responsibilities, and I can tell you that we are delegated to the nines. John sitting here right now, he is responsible for apparatus maintenance. They work 2 days a week, 2 12-hour shifts a week, and they rotate, so they only have 2 days of administration when they're on duty. I also have Nate Duchamp, who's working on the roof project right now, not even to mention the building maintenance projects, yard work, other stuff like that. So he has responsibilities along with others, and I split the tasks out as much as I can. Some of those tasks can't be done by some people because of HIPAA stuff when it comes to medical stuff, CQI, billing, other things like that. So that is something that I have to assume. I also looked around at departments our size. And the volume that we're doing for stuff is they have sometimes a full-time chief, a full-time deputy, and a part-time assistant chief. We've been able to do it with the bare bones. When I say that the department is bare bones, we have 6 full-time people, 2 of them are rotating creating people that work when they're available, to cover the ambulance, because state law says you have to have 2 people on the ambulance to be able to transport, if not, you cannot, and what that equates to, if you don't have those 2 people, then we don't collect the $200,000 of billing revenue to come into the fund to help offset taxes, but the running of the service under the RSA. So essentially, those funds are paying for salaries and equipment and the actual ambulance itself, so the taxpayers don't have to pay for it, so. It's becoming cumbersome, and I explained to the board, and I know in the Facebook world. Everybody doesn't have all the information, but I'm telling you as a professional that's been there for 34 years that. It's overloading me as the fire chief. To be able to only work 26 hours a week, I am very restricted. My deputy is a physician's assistant who works, his schedule has changed. Where he did a lot of the lifting with me, which he still does, but his time is restricted. He has to drive to Berlin, how many days a week now, 3 days a week?
Usually 3 or 4 days a month.
Okay, so, and his hours have changed, Melissa stepped down as EMS coordinator. I delegated some of those tasks out to 2 other people, but some of the stuff has to be a HIPAA officer, which comes down to being me. I can't have a firefighter like Ben Savage do stuff like that because the law says no. So I am asking for the reconsideration, the cost to this transition is $48 a year. I would work 2 12-hour working shifts on the floor, and 2 8-hour shifts would be doing administrative time. And even while working on the floor, I'd still be administrating on the times I'm not on the call. So I'm asking that because this department needs it, not just for me, but for our future, if we want to keep things stable. So I have to offer, if somebody has any questions.
Questions
So
for the chief?
after we had talked, I did a little more research. NHMA has some language about the allocation of salaries in your budget. And whether there's opportunity to change that when you've been tasked with default budget. So I would like to ask John to research that and determine that we would be in the right to do this. And that's one of the things. And I had expressed some other questions to John at the time I emailed you, and John asked me to bring them up at the board meeting, is appropriate. So the other thing I was asking was, and can a contract be drafted to waive certain benefits? And we did talk about the retirement benefit would not be in those. But also to determine, what kind of contract could, because Eric did offer that he would waive benefits. And
Yeah, the health insurance benefits.
so the other thing I was thinking about was in your proposal, you had talked about using funds from the revolving fund. And, given the language that I read from NHMA, I think it's important for us to consider that this would be put to vote, because it would impact the salary lines. I don't think it's wise to go year after year, dipping into the revolving fund to pay a salary.
No, that's why I brought up the budget with the Sherry salary and the savings insurance in the budget line. That's why I talked to Sean and looked at that. It's something that's underspent as
I have concerns about that as well, because we are paying MRI to do our finance work. And that's currently gonna be more income than Sherry would have earned.
Yeah, well,
So,
I also put in there for you guys, is with the overall budget of the town, it was 5% underspent. As of June 30th, where it should be 50%. So that amounts to about $250,000 of being underspent. So as we predict for the future, and I use the attitude, the thing with last year, we were in fear of a default budget in November. And I put in there too. And we were fearing about the default budget and we hired Jackie Sims. So I know we're in fear of that, but the hard part is we're okay with that. And as we look to the future with the funds, and that's why I spent a significant amount of time with John looking at the budget to see where we're at, and we're underspent for the year. So as
I
we,
think you were supposed to be underspent for the year, we just got an entire service from the town that they're still paying for, so they're paying twice for it. And the intention was that all the departments would underspend, because even after doing that, we were still looking for like an additional 300,000 in savings. And to me, if we're gonna increase the salary line, we shouldn't be doing that with creative accounting measures of, okay, we'll put someone to full-time, but we're not gonna give them benefits. We could put you to full-time or make a full-time sheet, and that person could get hit by a bus the following week, and we have to bring someone else in who does require those benefits. If we're gonna create a position like that, we need to be realistic about the cost. It's not $48, it's moving a salary from 54,000 to 108,000. And it's making that position eligible for all those health benefits and additional retirement.
yes,
That is a tax burden
Yes.
on the taxpayers, and
Yeah.
right now, we are looking at another default budget. I firmly believe that.
so and if you look at the numbers that are there is no increase in salary. And I think that's the misnomer that's being put out there. We're not increasing my budget. The salary is already in my budget. It's being paid to a per diem. So combining us together, even if the total dollar figure there's not an increase. There's no proposal to increase the salary line. So the $48 is basically, he was working 15 hours a week. It's reducing his hours because he can't be available. It's taking the hours from Melissa LaPorte, who is no longer here 12 hours a week. And it's now crunching all those numbers to make it so we can have a chief that can manage the department.
Well,
So
it would
realistically,
make
it
it so
is
you could be
$48
there
an hour.
full time, but there's other ways that we could address those issues, I'm guessing, and I haven't had a chance to look through the information. I definitely wanna take time to look it through the packet, but it seems like
It's like
when we
spending,
look
we're
at
gonna
the
spend more money.
issue of problems, there may be cheaper, more efficient and effective ways to address them than creating a position that's entitled to more retirement and more benefits.
Because if you hire someone right now, the cost is average of $48. When Tricia and I had talked about it is, if you hire somebody to do the secretarial work that I had before, you're looking at 20 hours a week, 15 to 20 hours a week. That's gonna be a cost of $20,000 to $25,000 a year. What I'm proposing is an average of $48 for the year, with the salary line being the same. And I said this for the sake of.
So you could take the money from the per diem to go towards
Yes.
you, but not towards an
Yes.
assistant, it only works if you're full time.
Yes. Because the problem we're running into is some of those things that we do, like I said, is we have to abide by the law when it comes to HIPAA, CQI, stuff like that. So I can't take a secretary and be like, hey, here's everybody's personal information from the medical call. We have to build that. Mo's a HIPAA officer. Dave is a HIPAA officer who helps me out every now and then with consent. So I have to choose accordingly by certification and by their abilities to do the billing. And when you look at the aspect of it, we hired Veronica in the year that she was hired. It was a part-time position for Donna Max. They hired a full-time person, not on a vote, not on anything else, not with the benefits being known. They went through and looked at the overall budget and hired Veronica as Donna's position, which turned into Jackie Sampson's position. So there's no difference in what we're doing. And yes, what it is.
I wasn't there, so I don't.
You actually were.
I don't know how,
You actually
I
were.
wasn't on this board when they hired Veronica or
Yes.
I was here when Jackie was on, and that was after that position was created, it was vacated and then filled without any review on my part.
But Veronica.
So I would definitely wanna review that information, I don't know what review process they used when they created that.
So,
I was not on the board.
to be clear, there is no increase in salaries. There's no increase in salary. The benefit is the point of what it is, and the social security is within the budget, and it's a bottom line budget. I can, in the absolute budget of my budget, as you wanna see, if you look in here, you will notice the ambulance line for the year is at $0. But you'll notice that my budget is at 63 or 67% spent. What Rita has done and helped me is put the two together, so my budget is only 53% spent. So it's always gonna look like that the ambulance line is not spent this year. My salary line is gonna go over by $150,000 to $180,000. So it's gonna look like we're overspending, but we're not. And the point of talking to John about the overall spending of the budget, and under budget, is the ability to meet the bottom line. So, and you can offer your input if you want, John, in regards to the conversations we had about it, but basically, I'm asking for this at no additional cost to the overall town budget. And no overall cost to the fire company besides $48. And because where we're talking about default budget and we're talking about worrying about stuff, and I did the math on a Juneteenth holiday. The whole board voted for that, and that's to the tune of $7,000 a year that we're gonna spend on a holiday. But we can't spend $48 to have a full-time fire chief to manage the fire department appropriately. I think that is, it just blows my mind, and personally, it shows the worth of what we do.
So you, in your proposal, were asking that some of the funds we for that salary come from the revolving fund.
No, that was an end all be all, and yes, it can be charged from the revolving fund because we charge salary repair now.
And you're also looking at the salary of the previous finance director, which in my estimation really should go to the continuation of that work, whether it be an in-person salary person or hiring out to MRI. That to me would be where that fund goes for those dollars.
I'm not sure I follow you.
So he stated that you would be using state salary
in that-
savings, but it's not really salary savings because we have an MRI person who's providing that function now.
Maybe if I can clarify.
What salary are you in?
Sherry Miller, you,
The retirement benefits, it's in it, the $13,000 that's in that one. Not to mention, like I said, if you look in the proposal, with the recent change in health insurance was the town savings of $32,000 in 1 year, with the town side is saving, I think, not to mention if people take different plans, it could be a larger savings. But as we move to next year, that's gonna potentially go up or down a little bit, but we still have a savings throughout the year, and we can plan everything for next year and know where we're gonna be. Even if we go to a default budget, I have predicted out the revolving fund for the next 4 years. And we're gonna be level funded, even if we take those revenues or those costs out of there, we're still gonna go in positive.
That 325% only lasts for 2 years.
No.
So how would you know the revolving fund is gonna be for 4 years?
Because I have 10 years of data from when we collected from every PMS and us.
But what if those rates change?
So they're gonna change our permit, because I did put in a copy here, the Senate Bill 245 is temporary until 2028, when you memorialize it and you write the language and it will stay the same, not better. I talked to the New Hampshire Chiefs Association, in this packet, you'll see that.
There's absolutely no guarantee of that. See, that's
But
what
they're not gonna cut off ambulance
when
funding.
I hear stuff like that, that's what makes me worry that maybe this is built on assumptions
No, it's not.
that aren't valid, because you can't make that assumption. You have no idea what that legislature is gonna do 2
Well,
years from now.
but they're not gonna stop collection of ambulance.
They're not gonna stop it, but it may not stay at 325, and it could be
Yes,
seriously
we're-
lower.
we're-
It could get cut down to 100%.
We're at 125 right now, and when I factor in the revolving fund funds, at a minimum of what we collected before, the original 180,000 that was factored on was the bare minimum that Pembroke used to get 8 years ago. So when I tell you that I'm conservative in the budget, when I do the budgets, I factor 180,000, and there's 250 that I can verify, is yes, we're always gonna probably make more. We're gonna be $130,000 ahead of we even predicted because I'm a state treasurer. So when we look to the future for this job, the way that I factor out even with the default budget is being very conservative to make sure that we can maintain a service. So they're never gonna cut out ambulance billing, it's never gonna go away. Even with the House Bill 316, it could have went down 25%. Even if my numbers were still at that 25% reduction. So as we go along, whatever surplus we get, whatever we get for the rest of this year, is gonna be additional funds to help us offset the expenses of the service. And if that includes the $33,000 in retirement benefits, that's good for us. So we're never gonna lose ambulance billing, it's never gonna be cut to the point where we can't survive the service and use it to offset it. Most ambulances, and like I said, I've talked to Epping, I've been to Northwood, and us, I've been across the street to Hudson. Hudson pays for 4 salaries out of that fund directly, every single year. I worked in Hudson for 23 years, and they did $1 million in billing revenue. 50% of that billing revenue offset the running of the service. And that's allowable by the RSA. I've called the state, I've done the research. The two people that are sitting right here will tell you that hours we put into making sure that the fund language was written the right way. So we could actually recuperate. Lawrence fire inspections go into there to help offset the cost of him going over to Hillsborough twice to 3 times a month to do inspections to help offset his salary. So those funds coming in all the time help to offset it. So the worry about us being in a default, I think needs to not be there because that specific fund is established under the RSA's to make it so when the hard times come, you can keep the service going. And we're doing a pretty damn good job at it. And I say it's not me, it's him sitting over there, it's Dave who does the work, it's Ron who does training, it's John who does maintenance, Ben who does the social media. All these people are busting their ass to make this department a good department. And I can tell you that we're doing pretty well. And we need a full-time chief. I need to be able to manage the department because right now I'm restricted. We're going up when everybody else is going down. I'd like to keep going up and have the ability to keep our staff where they are. I did put in there, and I'll be upfront with everybody in the sitting in this room. I have interviewed at other places, and that's not a threat. I love Allenstown. I like what we've built. I don't want to go anywhere. But I have 2 choices. Either I risk my retirement by going over my hours, or I go to a job where I don't have to worry about it. Because if I was to work and be full-time, there's no restriction on me staying an extra hour to help out the town. I spent many hours putting 1,600 square feet of flooring in the fire station upstairs to save this town money. I spent hours at that training grounds with Peter the other day doing work for this town. And all I'm asking you is to be able to manage this department effectively, is to be allowed to be in this position and be effective at it, because I'm not going to be soon. I'm missing meetings. I'm not going to state meetings or any of that stuff because I am at my limit. Right now, you're gonna get 9 hours out of me this week because I had to work 38 hours last week and I'm at 3 hours here tonight. You're gonna get 9 hours from me. If I go over those 9 hours, I risk being penalized. It's not effective at all for me to do. He doesn't have the time anymore. Melissa doesn't have the time. Ron, how many hours are you putting when you realistically with training stuff?
About 10 hours a week and you're getting charged for 5.
Yeah, so.
I don't get up in the morning for what you pay me. I'm doing that out of the goodness of my heart, I'll be honest with you.
So realistically, I'm just asking to be supported. I'm asking to be able to make a decision. I put the effort in to find it so we don't spend money. I'm cost conscious here of what I presented, it not costing more money. I can ask for an administrative assistant and put in the budget for $25,000 next year. I could ask to just put in another 60,000 so I can have the full-time things. I don't want to do that. I'm telling you up front, I'm a taxpayer in this town. I understand that we have taxes to pay and taxes on us. I figured out a way to do it where it's gonna cost minimal money compared to what it would if we just hired a full-time chief outside. So that's all I'm asking for.
Any other questions from the board?
Sorry, other questions, are you open for discussion?
Yes.
So I just want to say that, you know, in an organization, I've worked in a couple of organizations that leadership is everything. And I know the projects that are going on, they're in infancy stages right now, and they're too frail to hand off to somebody else. I know, I see the passion that Eric has. And I think, could we replace him? Sure, we could get another chief and he's gonna walk in and say, 25 hours, I'm done. They're gonna care about Allenstown like Eric does? Nope, this is just a job. You know, he's a taxpayer, he lives in this town, he's turned that department around. And not because I hear it, because I see it. I'm down at the fire station, you know, quite often. I see what goes on. You know, I've seen what they've done, what he's got going on, and we are on a great trajectory. And I think to pull the rug from under him, I think would put the fire department in a downward spiral. Because nobody's gonna have the passion that he has. Other people in the department, you know, when the leader is shaky and they don't believe in the leader, guess what happens? People find something else to do. Like I said, it's all about leadership. And then additionally, the people at Hillsborough, Some days they go there 3 times a day, picking those people up. Hillsborough pays the town just under $300,000 a year in taxes, $297 and some change. When they pick up the phone and they need an ambulance for one of their residents, they damn well deserve to have somebody show up that's qualified, that's gonna take care of their issues. Furthermore, they're, I believe, negotiating, or probably in end negotiations, to add on another 20-unit facility. I'm hearing they're closing on a piece of property down the road from down on Chester Turnpike, another 20 beds. The ambulance service, is needed more than ever. And once those 20 beds are in there, that's even more calls. And when the ambulance goes there, those are paying customers. They pay. I just don't have a good feeling that somebody, with his leadership qualities has to come here and beg to do the right thing. That's unfortunate. That's my thoughts.
I obviously am abstaining from voting, I'd just like to put my 2 cents in. The town's growing, it's gonna continue to grow. Having a full-time ambulance service, fire service is something we're gonna need. Take him out of the picture. In the future, we're gonna need it, we're gonna need this full-time service. And he is obviously dedicated to it. With minimal cost, it's a no-brainer. And I just think that it would just be a shame for it to be all dismantled. I'm seeing the hard work, obviously I'm part of the hard work.
Deputy Chief?
I just wanted to clarify one thing, I think when you asked about the administrative sector, like taking the money out of the per diem line versus using the per diem line for an administrative person. The difference would be that the administrative person is not a firefighter or an EMT. So the per diem line for workers, if they move that money into the full-time chief's position, it would be replacing one of the per diem shifts. So who would actually be working a shift, whereas an administrative person can't fill that position, and that's why that funding thing would be, that would work out. And then my only other thought is, I don't know if anybody heard about the fire in Fall River last night.
Oh, yeah.
Assisted living facility, fire, 9 people died, 30 people injured, including 5 firefighters. And just this evening, the president of the union of the firefighters for all over the country, said more people would have made more of a difference and probably saved more lives. And I'm not saying one person is going to make a significant difference, but having people at the station 24 hours a day and able to staff that ambulance does make a difference and can make a difference in just one person's life. So, I mean, I think the ability, if you run the numbers on your own, and Eric gave you the proposal, and it was actually a hard pill for me to swallow to see that I was becoming less effective with my scheduling. So like running the numbers and stuff, I mean, $48 is a pretty minimal investment in the amount of work, the amount of change, the amount of growth, the amount of things that Eric has set up. And even if you take Eric out of the picture, and even if it comes down to retirement benefits or benefits for someone else to come in, I still don't think you're going to get as much bang for the buck as you're getting from Eric. And I don't necessarily think that anybody would have the ability to function in the town amongst the board with the town administrator and with the mutual aid partners that we have, as well as Eric is administrator. So
I can pick him up. I'm sure there's a few more folks here.
So my only question is what's coming out of the budget? Because you said the bottom line is good, but I'm $300,000 I'm spending, we're not paving our budget this year. I can't maintain that next year. So my question is just how much is coming out of the budget and what you're dipping into other lines that are physically in the budget I don't care about the revolving fund. It's just what's coming out of the budget lines, because like I said, we're using up 90% of our, or a huge amount of our capital reserve to maintain this year's paving. If we don't do that next year, we got $200,000 worth of paving that will come apart and we'll start over. It'll cost us $500,000 in the 2 or 3 years from now. So that's my only question. I don't, like I said, the revolving fund doesn't matter to me.
In the budget right now, the math that I did for a half year is 16,000 and next year it's 30,000.
Okay.
So, and again, that math taken out of that budget line with the salaries is still there. And like I said, the RSA is set up specifically to offset the expenses of ambulance service. So essentially that whole fund, the amount there could come directly out of that fund. And that is 100% okay by the state statute.
Well, and I'm okay with the fund, because I understand it has to go to the fire service. But what I'm saying is that I agree, I feel that I don't see us passing the budget next year unless our budget is actually under default. So that being said, I need $300,000 next year to go towards paving. To just to maintain, not even to catch up. So that's my concern with the whole thing, is where money's coming from next year.
So the salary line is defaulted, that salary line for per diems is defaulted now,
Sure.
default next year, that money.
But I know you were talking about other salary lines or other,
No, just their social security, it was retirement, social security was what we're talking about,
and then benefits, healthcare or whatever benefits, retirement benefits.
just retirement, that's
Okay.
okay. So there's no healthcare, I don't mean, somebody gets postal service healthcare and ownership for 5 years, she gets it free for the rest of her life, so get to be included in it, so. And even if she passes away, which we did make phone calls, if something happens, you get married, and I still get the call. Not much to say. It's
Like, I didn't know he was making a lot.
It's kind of like, if something happens, you get benefits, like my state retirement, if I pass away, then she still gets my retirement for the rest of her life. So, that's how that works. But no, I'm not, there's no additional spending out of the budget, it would be the same as it is with the salary, that's why I proposed it the way I did, is like, the money's already there, we're paying a per diem, we are paying a per diem to sit there and work.
Right, but you're not paying, we don't pay healthcare for those 2 per diems, and we don't pay retirement for those 2 per diems.
And that's why I affected the health insurance retirement, that's the only cost in the aspect of what it is.
Okay.
It's $48 of the salaries and essentially retirement state insurance. It can be taken care
As long as we don't hire a finance director.
of, which I don't believe, I'm not sure if there's any intentions to do that.
Not at this moment.
And as I said, I did sit down with John Wayne to talk about these predictions in the future with the numbers, yes.
Thanks.
I'm good, thanks.
All set?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Adamopoulos?
All you know me, so I'm not gonna pull any punches. I started on that department and he did not ask these other people to come here tonight. I did. As a treasurer of the association and the secretary. When you look at that building, Allenstown Fire, you look at the building. You look at the apparatus, that's not Allenstown Fire. It's these folks right here, the fire department. I've seen a transformation, and I started when I was 13 years old out here. Her father was deputy chief. Yeah. It's phenomenal. The capital area is chirping about what's happening here. We ought to be proud of it, and you ought to support it. As far as the revolving fund, everybody's revolving fund. I ran Tri-County Ambulance for 8 years and did the finances. What's happening here is a revolution. Our collection rates are higher than it ever was there. And with the changes in legislation, everybody finally seeing the light. We're on a trajectory based on population. Every person we pick up, that line goes up. The salaries stay the same, whether these guys pick up 10 people, 5 people, or 1 person. And that's our population rise. When Hillsbrook Village comes online with that second facility, look out. Like when Eric first put this proposal, I found out about it, I was kind of amazing. I went through those, he said, come on down, look at this stuff. I did, and I looked at that stuff and I said, holy crap.
Let's back up, Ron. You came in a blaze.
Yeah, I did. So, what the hell are you doing? And I'll put that on public record, I'll look at the camera. What are you doing? I said, no, come down, look at it, and I did. I said, based on my experience, I said, oh crap. This is good work. He said, well, you want to come back on? I said, well, I gotta ask my wife, because properly staffed because I was retired, I had been off of it for several years. I did come back on and I'm doing every minute, I'm supposed to be retired. I'm busier now than I was retired. He has done a phenomenal job out here, he is a leader. I just can't put it into words. What this means to the town, because the people don't see, all they see is the fire trucks in the stadium, they don't see these folks behind us. Just keep that in mind, we are an emergency service. Back, even before the ambulance transportation, when the fuel directors used to do it, or the police departments, there was a whole new transformation when it came into the fire system. Because now we became a healthcare, as part of the healthcare system in this country, which is nationwide. That's what we provide. We provide that comfort to our citizens. And it's important. It's important that we provide that service, especially as we grow. And he's done a great job. As a taxpayer, I'll continue to pay my taxes. I don't care, because I know I'm getting the bang for the buck. And we're getting it in a very efficient manner.
So just a quick note, because you just remember, and I know you asked about the proposal capital. So when we predicted this year, the proposed budget for the year that I had predicted was 870. Obviously, the proposed budget this year, if that had passed, was only 871. So we're actually a couple $1,000 underneath what we had predicted. What we had predicted for building revenue was 314,700, and now it's supposed to be next year. For the past 2 years, we've been ahead of the game and been able to take care of the responses. And I did bring something that wasn't in the report also, if you asked about like the Robinson expenses for the Robinson fund. I do have that to get to you for the year so far.
I haven't had a chance to review everything you sent, it looks like it's quite a thick
Yeah, it's
document.
59 days.
Yeah, so I don't think in this meeting that I'm gonna be able to go through all this data, and you mentioned it's not, it doesn't answer all of the questions.
That's the answer is 99%.
Well, I want all of the information that I have, of course, that I can do some of my own calculations. There was a very specific reason I asked for that specific data, but I'll need time to look through it.
What was the reason? So I know it's like.
I wanna look at your net and gross operating margins. I wanna see what the proposal was exactly for operations before you set in what you were expecting to do there as far as manpower and the roles of the department, and what was gonna support that outside of
Is that because you
operations.
It's gonna trust my number.
I always like to look at numbers, trust but verify.
Yeah, I
A
agree.
lot of times people can look at things, like I said before,
Yeah.
from one perspective, and somebody else can look at something from another perspective. Both people can be correct.
I agree with that. The only thing I'll say to that is, and this isn't, I agree with the person. Understand. So part of this is, if I was in a position, somebody who works here, where it's not accurate and not behind what I had said, and I think that I predicted and you can spot on and very well at where we're at. Even to this day, we can ask John, is limiting some expenses when it comes to that management. Because I know that we're in default budget. So I'm being cost conscious, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or something I'm there.
I'm in no way voting no because of your character. It is nothing, I don't think safety services is unimportant, it's not that I don't appreciate what we do. But when I sit in this seat as a board of selectmen member, it's my job to look at the numbers, those figures at the whole tax base at every department, not just one. And see how those threads are interwoven and how every decision that I make for one department affects the others. And at the end of the day, I'm trying hopefully to build a community that meets everybody's needs, that enables every department to do the best job. And I can't do that if I don't do my due diligence, really looking at those numbers. It's not anything personal, it's not that I think you're a liar, it's not that I think you're a man of ill integrity. It's just that I would do this for any department. I want to review those numbers, I want to look at that data, and I'm going to think about those.
So can I ask you? Last week you guys voted for. Was there any research done on how much it costs for all the different people that
We got a salary study actually from MRI, that's suggested that in lieu of giving raises, which would have cost a lot more to go out and give every employee raises or add hiring bonuses. They said we should look at giving more paid holidays.
Yes,
Those
but
are
my
the
point-
simple little perks.
Like $7,000 is not a single part. When you look at the math, what that holiday comes for, is this is my point. And this is what I'm trying to make here, is like, if we're gonna look at all the numbers, like realistically, my numbers being too bad. But every board member voted yes last week. For a cost of $7,000 a year, that's gonna be potentially for every single year. So looking at the numbers, you look at the numbers, everything, not just what comes from
Well, we
me.
didn't increase costs.
Yes, you did.
We
And most certainly
No,
did.
we did. They have to pay over.
$6,880 is what it's gonna cost for me.
Yeah.
So if we talk about analyzing the numbers to make sure you're running certain things, for me, take yourself out of your shoes and sit on mine. I'm not gonna hear this running department, kind of being charged of the department and following all the laws, and presenting the numbers here. But when I go through and a vote is done to spend $7,000 every single year, there was no research done. A letter was written here, and we all voted against. So in
Well,
my
I read
mind,
the MRI report.
am I right,
The salaries.
but that didn't talk about the increase in the holiday. So when you look at Beth, when she has to pay for her holidays, and I have to pay because they have to be paid double time and a half the time they work. And anybody who's not working takes 8 hours. The same thing goes with the police department. So there is a cost to that. So when you guys look at that, it's hard for me to swallow as a department here, to look at it saying, I'm asking for a minimum money to manage my department. I don't know, when we're spending $7,000 for a holiday. So when we're talking about looking at the numbers, I don't think that it's that much to ask. So, I'm sorry.
I don't want you to stop talking. Well, actually, I did. Not because I just wanted to get a chance to some other folks talk. Thank you. Yeah, state your name.
Yep, Dave Bessie, resident and member of the fire department. I wanted to take the time to not only address people in the room, but also the people online that are gonna watch this later on tonight when they're commenting on social media. But this town needs to realize the head officer of this department that we have in this town, okay? In my 20 years in emergency services, I've never met a chief officer that's been so fiscally responsible, okay? You know, halfway through the budget, the last 2 years I've been in this department, it's been automatic, hey, we gotta start burning off on some of these things because we need to make sure that we're either at or below budget. Okay, these are things you don't typically see with chief officers. It's, it is what it is, and if we go over, let the town figure it out, okay? As a taxpayer in this town, I couldn't be more happy with what we get with Eric Graham, okay? And I hope, and I pray, that the rest of this town will see things the way I see it, right, in what he's requesting, okay? This isn't a big ask, this is a little ask for the town, okay? The vision and the goals that Chief Lambert brings to this department, brings to this town, okay? We're being progressive. This town is trying to be the next Hooksett, right? Trying to be the next progressive big town and not little rinky-dink town anymore, okay? Things have to change for that. And the vision and the goals that Chief Lambert is bringing this department to, bring us to that level with minimal ask financially of this town, okay? Is, we can't beat that. I get that he's one person, if the theoretical bus takes him out tomorrow, right? We lose it. But he stays pretty safe, okay? He puts his vest on when he steps out of his car. So we don't need to necessarily worry about that today. Maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, but today, if this is what he's coming in to ask for, I think it behooves this town, and I hope that all the taxpayers paying attention listen to this and support this, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Sotterelli.
John Early, firefighter on the fire department and taxpayer. So you guys are aware, as much as you guys wanna say that, you know, he's getting a lot of free time from a lot of members that aren't getting paid a lot more time than we could be thrown in to do stuff for the town, to save money for the town. I work an extra 10 to 15 hours a week that I'm not getting paid for, and I'm not asking him to pay me, I'm not asking you guys to pay me. But with him in the building, it will give me that time to do my maintenance on shift with him being there and being able to go on calls with my partner. So I get a minute to do my vehicle maintenance without being on shift, with my hands full of oil, having to run to go to the bathroom, jump on the ambulance to go to the ambulance call. because they're going through what's on us. And I feel like this proposal, I looked at both of them, for what we're asking for as a taxpayer, I would support this 100%. And not worry about it. I care less about the trash, and we keep bringing up that we don't have trash. I don't mind paying that $40 for trash. But I would like you guys to
Done. Step forward.
Ben Savage, I work for the fire department, quick note that I followed Eric never here. He was talking one time about this town, he's doing really great things, and I said, I'm going to try. Unfortunately, I'll throw myself under the bus. I've been personally responsible for numerous financial incentives costing the town. My first thought was, call the chief, to figure out this problem to fix it, so I don't disrupt the budget. A couple of you brought up previously that, oh, we call him, this is not a 9 to 5. I've called him at 2 in the morning, I called him at 3 in the afternoon, or hey, I messed up, chief, I did that, sorry, I cost you something, all right. We'll figure it out, we'll get it done. I didn't stop to worry about going over his retirement budget. Now, I hate to think that I did that because I called him when I needed something from my leader. Again, I just, I'm passionate about a lot of things. Again, I follow this man up here. So even again, to echo what Mr. Bessie said, very rarely have I been, hey, it's August, we gotta start thinking about January 1st, we gotta start thinking about July. We gotta start thinking about that. Very rarely have I been in places that do that, this degree that this chief has done. Again, I'm responsible, unfortunately, and my first thought was, hey, chief, I'm really sorry. I know that we're in a precarious situation. Okay, don't worry. We'll figure it out. We'll get it done. I can't call many other people at 2 a.m. I can't call many other people on an emergency. Thank you for your time. I do apologize for your.
And Tricia, one other thing I just talked about, right, 2 points, yes. I'm willing to like stay in town, live here, been here for 34 years. I will tell you the fact that if it comes down to signing a contract, which I talked about before, I'll sign a contract to stay here. I told Maureen when I took over this position, and that's how long I plan on staying. I'm tired of rotating over the fire chief, fire department hurting, that I'm gonna stay here 7 to 10 years, almost 4 years in, 4.5 years in, and I plan on not leaving anytime soon. That extends.
I'd like to speak as a non-firefighter resident. As many of you know, my dad has a lot of health concerns. We've had the fire department, ambulance service, police department at our house more times than I would like to see them. It's not that I don't like you guys, because you're all awesome. But I used to get really frustrated when Pembroke or Epsom would show up at my house instead of our own departments. And it killed me because these folks, they know this town, they know the residents. And I trust these people more than any other town, despite the fact that they all do the same job, but they know the people. They know everybody. They know this town inside and out. And I just want to see these people supported the way that they need to be supported and have something done that this town needs. I've known Eric since high school, probably.
Yes.
And it kills me because I've been in this town for so long. And these guys have just bent over backwards for this community. They really have. And I'm sure if my dad was here, he would say the same thing. So I just want to take the opportunity and thank all of our first responders for the amazing job that you guys do. And thank you for the care that you put into this community. And I would support you guys in any way that I possibly could, now and in the future. So thank you, all of you. That's all I have to say.
Oh, Mr. Claus.
Keith Claus, resident, in school board rep, I sat on the select board, budget committee, so on and so forth, and I'll say in my, I don't know, 12 or 15 years of elected service in this town, we don't often see the dedication from some of our fire chiefs, police chiefs, you know, et cetera, that goes through. It says a lot when this room is filled with firemen, to speak on the behalf of our fire chief. I traveled a lot, in my job, and I go everywhere from Ipswich and Gloucester, Mass, all the way up to Augusta, Maine. I was in Berwick, Maine today. I've been in Portsmouth. And I will tell you at least twice a month, when I'm in a restaurant talking to somebody, I always get asked, well, where are you from? And I have to tell them I'm local. I live in Allenstown, right? They don't want to buy from somebody out in Chicago, right? They don't understand that. And they're like, wow, you guys are doing a lot of good stuff there with your fire department, right? We're known in this state, in Maine, in Massachusetts, about what's going on in our fire department. And if we lose a good man over $48 is crazy. I appreciate your thoughts, Kathleen. I really honestly do. We haven't always seen eye to eye on personnel issues and what we've needed and in different departments. And I appreciate you looking at that. But the what ifs of what happens if somebody gets hit by a bus? Well, what happens? Right? We had an unfortunate incident not too long ago that our road agent passed away, and we had to bring somebody in to cover that shift as well. Those what ifs are always going to go ahead and take place. But to lose the momentum of our fire department, our emergency management service over 48 bucks, and what if something happens down the line?
It's not just $48. It's an increase in salary from 54 to 108. It's potentially looking at not filling a finance position. It is adding those benefits. I would be comfortable creating haphazard positions and okay, we can go full-time, but only if there's no benefits attached. If we're going to make a sound financial decision, it should be one we can support and stand behind no matter what. We should be saying we are financially ready to move into the next level of full-time position that we can sustain.
So,
at one point, correct? I believe there was only 2.
So,
but there were only 2. Now I think there's 6. So going full.
So did we consider?
Yeah, it's not a full-time.
So-
when there were only 2
And then-
full-time employees.
And that was a different budget, with 2 full-time
Very
employees,
different budget.
and now we have everything covered financially, there is no salary increase. I don't know how more ways to say it, there's 0 salary increase to what I made. The number at the end is different, yes, but it is in the budget. That money is in the budget, there is no salary increase, even for years down the road, the person does the same thing I do, there is no salary increase.
In fairness to Ron's ability to have looked at all of that stuff, I would like that opportunity to be one of the positions. So one of the things that I am wondering is not against you personally, but what does it look like when outside of Eric's need to avoid being penalized by many RS? What does it look like for a town to have a part of make it work 14 hours? And how many towns are doing that? Seeing that there are a couple.
They cannot donate their time, so they can work. Some of the old retirement systems, hire 32 hours in their time. If you work more than 32 hours, you are required by law to be given benefits. So any of these ones that say they're working part-time, Eric Thomas works in Atkins and New Hampshire. He's in the same boat as I, he's restricted. Even with a person who is not in the retirement. You can't work more than 30 hours or 32 hours a week, and you have to pay benefits. So the giving up, and I even brought this up in our conversations. The donation of time can get you burned too. You get the town fined. Because if you're working over 32 hours, you have to pay benefits. Ricky Bill did it in the town of Benson. He worked in a number of towns, they had to give him a full-time position, they have to fire department because he put in more hours.
The other part, the other thing that I'm now concerned about that has been publicly announced is that we have staff that are working beyond their paid hours. And what does that look like for us legally? I mean, that's just been announced tonight to us.
They're
I'm
volunteering.
concerned about that, and the Department of Labor may be looking at us. So we need to investigate that, know whether that is legal or not.
So,
I do not want the town to be in trouble with the department.
Mr. Fox.
I'd just like to finish up, if I may. And I have to go back and think about this fire department chief's position was full-time. It got moved to part-time, and I don't think it was even officially moved to part-time, where it was taken, as a board vote saying the fire chief is now going to be a part-time position permanently going forward, due to circumstances that needed to go ahead and take place with former police chiefs. I'm sorry, fire chiefs, right? And so I wonder if you guys put the same thought process in with our police chief. Do we need a full-time police chief? I'm gonna venture to guess that we need a full-time fire chief just as much, or if not more, than we need a full-time police chief. And I think we do need a full-time police chief. So I'm not saying that you need. I know you. So I'm just, you think about that, and again, I appreciate your thought process with that, but we're not asking for, the police chief is not, fire chief is not asking for something that wasn't there or isn't there.
If you look back,
Different time under agreement.
if you look back, Mr. Mulholland at that time put it in, and there was allocated hours. There was 20 hours to a police chief, there was 15 hours to a building inspector, and there was 5 hours allocated to a code enforcement officer. So there were 3 positions combined to make one full-time position at that point in time.
But I think it was to make that person be able to be hired as a full-time
And
position.
Even in the 20 hours they were doing, that didn't include EMS, it didn't include EMS.
No, I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying that by saying that we had a full-time fire chief and it was, there was just.
I was talking even before him.
Was-
No, I know Chief Pendergast, it wasn't.
And Rob Martin was a full-time chief and it didn't have building inspection, he was just putting a full-time chief when we were doing first response. He was the first full-time chief. When they brought in Dana, he was here as a building inspector and they just said he wanted the job and held the job together. But Rob was a full-time chief, that was 40 hours, 45 hours a week doing fire department.
But he was one of the 2 full-time firefighters.
He was,
He was
and
just-
I'm looking to do the same thing, he wanted the full-time firefighters doing that position in the same capacity. And all the numbers that are put forward are the numbers that come straight from all those up there, comes straight from the research, straight from the town administrator and everybody else, so it's not like these things have been added on.
I'm gonna correct Trish. Okay, you said you want the same time to look at that as I did. I did it for 7 years intensively. I worked payroll. I worked-
Specific
Right,
reports.
I'm just saying, I have 7 years of doing this stuff. I know it like the back of my hand. If you implode this by any of these decisions that are poorly made, you will incur a $1.2 million tax on this town to bring in an outside organization. They're gonna come in, and you're not gonna have a choice. Everybody forgets why they went from across the river to here. Because we were paying by call volume. Our call volume has spiked.
But did we ever ask them if we could renegotiate a contract? Just wondering.
We-
Can you clarify
Kathleen,
that?
that was decided 40 years ago. That was decided 40 years ago. We're not gonna relitigate that.
Yeah, I'm asking it now in public session.
Does it matter
It
though?
does clearly.
It
matters to me.
It doesn't, it's water over the dam, and there's
Okay,
nothing
so
you can
we
do.
are where we are now, but I still need to look at those numbers with fresh eyes. And it doesn't matter that we pulled out from trial.
Okay, so
You're telling me it doesn't.
I'm gonna ask you
matter.
something quick,
You're
when
telling
you're
me
public.
it does.
Where is your expertise in firing EMS finance? It's
I
not,
have-
it's not the same as accounting.
I do have a degree in accounting.
It's
and I
not
have
the
a
same.
degree in public administration.
It's
and I will
not the
take
same.
my time to look at the numbers.
It's no different than saying that I know how to run Chad's budget, or I know how to run the police department budget. I know how to run the EMS budget, I can say that. But I can't, even with all my years of budget experience and the education I've had, that I can go look at hers or look at Chad's and know, because I don't. But this one, I do.
And I will take your recommendation, but I am the one making the decision, and I certainly have the right to review the information that I asked for before I make that decision.
Okay, fuss. Just remember, when we start, if something does occur, and we bring outside ambulance services into this town, your residents are looking at the possible collection, aggressive collections. And then the possibility of liens on their houses and households. We don't do that. But that's another drawback to bring in these outside services. They don't care about Allenstown. Oh, we're gonna give you the service, but you're gonna pay for it. With the old, if we had stayed under the old 5 days a week, 24/7, we would be paying $200,000 more a year. Plus with our skyrocketing call volume, it would have just kept going. We were looking at 1.2 million.
That was.
And they
the
weren't,
term stayed the same.
they weren't gonna renegotiate, because they knew what they had in their pocket. I was part of that. They knew exactly what they had in their pocket, and trust me, Kathleen, they weren't gonna renegotiate.
I have one other question for you. That NHRS dollars from the finance commission, why couldn't that be used for the finance position? How would we use that, whether it be used with MRI or other finance? Using it for that salary.
Any of the budget lines in the default budget can be used in any part of the budget. That's the same way with an operating budget as well. It makes no difference whether it's operating or budget. Once it's passed by the people, it becomes your budget. You can make decisions about salaries and positions within a budget during the year. I know that was one of your questions. Once it's voted, it becomes your budget.
It's the bottom line.
Right. Both of them typically are in reality a bottom line budget.
And again, I just want to reiterate, we need to look for the future, we're going in a direction. The future is what we need to look forward to, take the people out. We're growing, again, that is what we need to do.
I've worked with Eric for 4 years now. I'm the only one left on the board that was here when we decided to separate from Charlestown. His numbers have always been solid. In fact, they've always been very much conservative. So we did a lot of work to get us to this point. I hate to see us go backwards. When I started here, we had 8 people on the fire department roster. 30% of our calls were being answered on the towns. That is no longer the case. But most days, not always, but most days, if we have 2 ambulance calls at the same time, we've been able to answer. And we've been able to do it quickly. So I'm not in the mood for undoing all of that work we've done the last few years. Your numbers are solid. And I told you when I made the motion in the last meeting, it can come out of my stipend. What, $48? So I will move that the board approve Eric's. Pardon me?
Just before you do that.
Question. Do we need to move for reconsideration? Or is it best if we table it?
Well, you heard from 2 board members that are not operating.
Right.
So I would recommend you table it until Kathleen and Tricia have time to review it.
All right, make a motion to table the issue of the full-time fire chief until such time that Trish and Kathleen review the data, have their questions.
I'll second. All in favor?
Technically,
Scott.
That's it. I will say one thing. I know we've been through it, and excuse me, trying to well shape this down in the past 6 months. And I will say that I watch Facebook and I watch what happens there. I have a feeling it's simply my first one. I would hope after everything that happened with trash, everything happened with trash, that I'm not being singled out because I'm asking. But that's how I feel. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you.
We're sort of right in the middle of citizen comments. I need a number of them we found while we're speaking. Mike, I'm gonna single you out. Citizens comments, you may only have something.
July 3rd, 20th anniversary of something we saw extremely well. That's the future. And on the back, they always blame Jay, anything that goes wrong. They didn't tell you on January. Imagine it's a big sale, just in time to get the last one of these famous brownies. So that was a sellout. Yeah. One unfortunate news is Matt Fish, who's been the vice chair in the EDC, announced at the last meeting that he's bought a new house, a bigger house in Concord. So he resigned because he's moving his home, he's moving to his business from Allentown Aggregates commercial buildings into Concord. Apparently the home he bought is so big he can put his business in part of the house. So, no problem to him. The other new thing is that hopefully sometime this week, a new store is opening up where Pizza Market used to be. It's called Maryland's, and it's a fast food takeout business. And a couple of things that they're bragging about is their 18-inch pizza and their 22-inch sub. The last thing is the EDC canceled the last concert that we were going to have in August. It was the PTO backed out, was not going to support us for this one. So that meant no food concession, nobody to do activities for kids. So instead, we're going to be supporting the police department in the bike rodeo that they want to hold on August 16th. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mike. Any other citizens' comments this evening? Hearing none, we'll go back to our regular agenda. Next up, our ad hoc committee is going to report. Diane and Wayne.
Yeah, you can,
You want to sit in there?
most of you have already seen his presentation. Okay. So we had, we put together, well, Diane did the guidelines for it, and we had some members that sat and did this ad hoc committee, and the whole purpose of it was to see the feasibility of moving town hall into the old AU. So this is, we met, I think we had 4 meetings, and we had a lot of input. There was information coming from all over. We did a lot of research. So I'm just gonna go through this presentation. First thing, are you doing this? No. Okay, it's just a member, a listing of the committee members. Hold on one second, okay. Okay, so the next page to that, okay. So the committee members, included myself as chair of the budget committee. We had Ryan Adinolfo because he's trustee of trust funds. Brian Arsenault is our building inspector code enforcement. We had Lauren Childs represent the fire department for life safety codes. Beth did police chief for safety within the building. We had Chad on for highway department. Peter DeSantis was our public member representative. So he was fielding any Facebook posts or any questions from the general public. We had Armin Verville, who was the Historical Society. Jess Bickford was SAU. Of course, John sat in on our meetings. Diane represented the Board of Selectmen. And Lisa told was on it, but she didn't attend meetings, and it's because she had familiarity with the building, because she used to be the janitor, custodian at that property for a long, long time. So the next slide is sale of the existing AES building. And we kind of did bullet points on items to consider. So if we were to sell AES, these are just some of the costs. You know, we have to do a survey, approximately 15,000, and that would be to release the athletic field and the lot line adjustments and so forth. We would have to construct access to that facility, the athletic facility in the back, to the lower athletic field directly from Ferry Street. So that's that little railroad bed that sits across from the fire station. And to an approximate cost of 320,000, and that's without parking. Correct?
There's no room for parking.
There's no room for parking down there. That was calculated at 800 feet, which Chad had given us that information at $400 per foot. So that's significant just to access that back field. Some would probably say, well, why don't we just do a lot line adjustment or just sell off or sell it in its entirety? We can't do that because of the way that we acquired that property. You've done research on it, haven't you? The New Hampshire transfer tax, and this is assuming that we were to sell it at 3.2 million, which is extremely unlikely, would be 24.9. New Hampshire transfer tax is $15 per thousand, divided equally between buyer seller at the time of closing. And then there'd be standard closing costs. We estimated about 10,000. That's legal costs, title search, preparation of deeds, and so forth. So if we were to sell, let's just say at $1 million, and I even think that number is, what's that?
I don't think we get $1 million.
Oh, absolutely not. But I'm thinking that's,
Have we
it's a
had
third.
somebody come in and?
What's that?
Have we had a realtor or
Well,
property?
these are based right off tax assessment cards. These are from the tax assessment cards.
That's fine, but
Yeah.
the tax assessment cards aren't gonna tell us what the current market looks like and what these types of places are selling.
Okay, I can tell you when Village School in Pembroke sold, everyone thought the same thing, were they gonna
When
get $1
was
million? What's that?
When was that?
Was 3-4 years ago, when they moved all the kids up to Pembroke Hill. They, everyone was saying $1 million plus for that, it sold for $150,000.
I understand that,
And
I would want
Manchester-
that same
Just recently sold the school for 50,000.
ability to learn.
What's that?
Manchester recently just sold the school for 50,000.
Yeah.
The old schools need
Yeah.
so much work that by the time people come in, they don't go for.
Right, because of the retrofit
Yeah.
I
that
still
would be
want
needed,
that. That's fine.
But let's just say a developer were to come in with deep pockets and wanted to buy it for $1 million. And we did a dump on our tax rate, right? So the tax rate for every $535,000 spent represents $1 on your tax rate. It would be approximately $1.87 per thousand decrease on your tax rate, on your tax bill next year. However, it's a one-time tax relief. So we all know what happens with that. Next year, that $1.80, your taxes would go down.
Well, no, that would depend on what we did with that. I'm not a fan of buying down taxes, and it's also the tax value in perpetuity. So just to be, I'm not saying you have to have all those numbers, but honestly, if we were to sell it, that revenue could be kept, it could fund capital reserve accounts, it doesn't have to go to buy down the tax rate, and then we would be getting tax income for years in perpetuity from that property, because it would be on the tax rolls, it would be developed at that point, and we have somebody in here.
But I mean, chances are people would want to see it offset their taxes, because that's what, if you're following Facebook, and so if it's on social media, it's gotta be right? So,
Absolutely.
so it's gotta be, yeah. So let's just say tax rates were to go down to offset taxes at $1.87. That's a one-time tax relief. So next year, if that's truly what happened, your tax, they go down 187, next year they go up 187, plus your regular increases to the operating budgets.
How are you predicting that they would go up 187?
Well, if they're going down 187 for no reason, they're gonna go up the next year, because that money won't be there.
If we used it as a buy down, we can only buy down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't,
Yeah.
I would never go
Right, that's not the only way to treat.
Next, John?
So the taxpayers could continue to see an effect from that tax collection
Yes,
without it being a buy down.
yes.
With funded capital reserve.
Yeah.
Okay, the risk of selling AES. Assuming that it were to be sold to a developer and the conversion would be to residential housing, that would create an impact to the school, and I'm just talking school impact, approximately, well, school is $28,000 per child based on current tuitions, that's through the K-8 and your PA tuition. If we were to lose the pre-K program, that would result in a financial impact of 51% of the, because 51% of the preschool population are Allenstown kids. So that's significant. Allenstown pays $303,569 of the $598,896 preschool budget. This information, the source is, this is all coming from the SAU. Again, 27 Allenstown students at 11,243.32 is where that number comes from. Moving the pre-K would result in added transportation costs to a new location. So let's just say these kids are not going to be housed at a preschool in Epsom, Chichester, wherever within the SAU. We'd have to transport them there because state and federal law say that you must educate a child from the age of 3 to their 22nd birthdays. Am I right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So that's a significant increase right there.
I'd like verification on that because I've heard other ones from
Only if
people
you're
on the school board.
Yeah,
Well, a lot of these are.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, but you're only
Right.
required to do it from 3 to 22 if you're on 9.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but most of the children that we're, yes. So let's see, and then we have, if we were to sell the AES building, we have no voting location. We have no emergency management location. And more importantly, if you just look around this room today, we have no meeting locations. No place where we can conduct meetings. Next.
Could you go back to that for a minute, on the, conversion to residential housing, so if the town hall were to move over there, there's a plan that we would have businesses renting, so it would be a mixed zoning, in that area, so.
The pre-K, Trish, the pre-K obviously would stay because we have leases in place right now.
I'm not talking about the pre-K in itself,
No, this is if we would.
I'm talking about if we were to sell that building, it doesn't necessarily have to stay residential housing, it could be other businesses where we are thinking that if the town hall goes there, there would be other businesses there.
It doesn't have to just be sold.
Right.
No, I'm just.
So there might not be an impact to the school.
Yeah.
No, so why that bullet is there is if it went to residential housing, and let's just say 5 students moved in there, and we saw that with Grady Sullivan, right? 5, and I think the enrollment is 15.
My point is we could make that
Oh, yeah.
zoning and that would stay a business place instead of residential.
But she's just showing if it.
Yeah.
If it.
Because once you sell it, you can't tell the developer what they're going to do with it.
No, you can in the deed, yeah.
What you can do
You can-
easements, right, So, next slide. So these are reasons that the committee decided it would be a great idea to convert AES into a new town hall. The purchase price, of course, is $1. A voting location, because we cannot do voting at the new ACS
Why is
building.
that?
Because school is in session on those days, and the calendars have been made out already, the school calendars. However, the school did say, for any deliberative or public hearings, we can certainly use the gym facility.
On Saturdays,
On
because it's on Saturdays.
Correct. Meeting space to accommodate various boards and the general public, this facility does not allow for that. Adequate space providing privacy and security for employees as well as residents. It's not, and I'll go back to, I was here registering my car one day and someone was at the next window inquiring about welfare. There's just no, and it was awkward, so there's just no privacy. Let's see, location for community activities, indoor or outdoor, we have currently approximately in excess of 450,000 that the taxpayers have been putting in capital reserve since the warrant articles originally started a few years back in support of the retrofit. It eliminates the risk of residential housing that would impact various department budgets, not just, going back to if, it was residential, 5 kids at 23, you can see the impact there. But that's also the fire impact, the police impact, I mean, every budget is affected with this. Let's see, and then, again, I alluded to Pembroke sold at 150, that was confirmed.
Melinda, could you speak a little to, the idea that, or the fact that, that retrofit, those dollars wouldn't cover the full amount of the needed retrofit?
Okay,
And, where would those additional dollars come from to continue to make that building usable space for businesses to rent out, et cetera, et cetera?
so 400 and, do you have the exact number, 400?
About 455.
Okay, it's currently sitting in capital reserve account. So this was always established as it was gonna be a phased thing. That we're not gonna go in there, gun hole, and do it all in 1 year, it's going to be in 3 phases, I believe. So the first thing would be to, do all of the, wiring, the technology.
Subsequent funding would come from the voters by funding capital reserve accounts with our unspent tax dollars, right? That's
If
what we're-
needed, and with, right,
Yes,
so. Hi, you wanna comment on this, as far as, the phase 1, what would be needed at phase 1? According to the Harriman report.
Yes, when the Harriman report, the stairwells would be isolated for life safety purposes. The railings would be brought up to code. In the bathrooms will be American with Disability Act, ADA modified. And that's all within the first year, which is fully budgeted.
Secure this preschool area.
Yes, it's some placement of rooms. After that is additional work in the building that, if you look at the Harriman report, is just to make the building better. We can put in central air conditioning. Currently, all that building is heated and with fans. So there's money, it's a breakdown, it's all in the Harriman.
And that could come from unassigned fund balance, which is unused tax money. It would be up to the voters to fund that account. So what would happen is in March, there would be a warrant article that asks the voters if they want to put 50,000 or 100,000 of unspent money, so it doesn't affect their tax bill, their taxes don't go up. We're gonna take that from unassigned fund balance, or leftover tax dollars. Fund that account. If they decide to do so, then we could move on with further
Phase 2,
renovations,
right.
phase 2, again,
But phase,
potentially no hit to the tax.
exactly, and in response to that, Kathleen, phase 1 would be enough work in there to move over time.
That's correct.
The main floor of the building, So it would be, the town clerk's office, offices, meeting space. So yes,
And we'd be set to begin renting rooms if we had renters also at that time.
right. So we do have, $30,000 that's coming in from the SAU pre-K program. And probably, so firemen, which is they do all of the training for the fire department, correct?
they're an independent.
EMT,
They're an independent
Yeah, they're
corporation
independent,
that provides.
and they're willing to rent 2 rooms, correct? It was 3 rooms.
Three.
And so they would do, for the on-time firefighters, if they wanted free training, the town would do that, or in lieu of that, they would pay $1,000 for training, and they estimate 10 trainings per year. So that's another $10,000. We have a letter of intent on that.
Within that first year, I've been on some discussions about, how some of the town offices would end up being on the second floor. So within that first year, is there room enough for all the town offices to be on that first floor and to add?
Well, the renters, the firemen, people would be on the second.
Okay, so that would be.
Oh, no, I mean,
Brian just said the stairwell would be blocked off in that.
well, we
No, it's not gonna be blocked off. You cannot have a door
into a office or a classroom that's off of the stairwell. So that door that currently enters that classroom be blocked off, and a new door has to be cut outside of that stairwell into that space. And the layout has been discussed many times, with that historic being on the, taking up some space, along with large meeting space for the town. There are offices for town employees on the second floor.
I misunderstood it the way you said it, where it sounded like we were not gonna be doing anything upstairs.
No,
Right.
but it would be kind of blocked off so that, and I think they need to do that to fire, right? But I mean, you have access to
Put that one.
correct. Something important to note as well is when the Harriman report, for the retrofit. Brian contacted Harriman and spoke to the people that were that, because they had done an estimated budget on what they saw that would need. And they allowed for 30%
30%.
inflation, so those numbers hold. So. Let's see, it's, centrally located, more importantly, it provides ATS accessibility. So, and that's key. And, the gym is currently used as our emergency shelter, but also that would fall into, you can bring your recreation down. So you have separate athletics that are always looking for courts, basketball practice. The baseball field we have access to. You
definitely wanna look to have things.
Well, exactly, that's what I'm saying, so it could be revenue generating, certainly. And I mean, Armin's mapped it out for voting, so it needs all of that, so. Next one, please. Okay, so the reasons to convert AES into town hall, so the cost benefit, obviously the revenues from business development would be key, 30,000 again for the SAU. Fire med could be 10,000 for classroom space, or in lieu of that, free training for EMT or advanced EMT. Let's see. And the Board of Selectmen has previously approved space consisting of 2 classrooms, correct? 2 classrooms and 1 storage room for the Allenstown Historical Society to actually have their museum there. Tenants within the premise will, so we already have that with the SAU, pre-K. Any tenant in there would provide liability insurance, naming the town of Allenstown as an additional insured for up to $1 million.
But all of these rates, if we decided to convert to AES, like even our contract with the SAU, we could make sure that we were actually charging market. We're not stuck at 30,000.
Exactly.
That's what is being proposed right now. That is not what we have.
That is not market rate, and I do agree with you, Kathleen, but the thing is if you look at the lease, if you're going to do anything, they have 90 days before the lease expires to renegotiate, or they terminate or re-terminate, whatever. So that won't happen this year, but certainly next year when that's renegotiated would be the time to do that.
They're in there from 26 to 27.
You wanna be careful of that school lease too, because you raise that lease to the SAU to say $45,000. Well, 75% of that's going back to the Allenstown taxpayers, so that's really not saving any money, right?
Yeah. We could explore, bringing the library into the new town hall. I don't know, that's something under your trustee at the library. We've not approached the library, but that's one other potential, now we've given another building for sale, but we didn't really get deep into the weeds on that.
Elaine, has any research been done into the idea of, sex offenders, pedophiles being on the same property at the school, how that might affect, just everyday users of the offices that are town hall, and potential vendors that might want to rent out things for their business.
Their registration, they're gonna know what they can and can't do, like that's a self-correcting problem. Sex offender themselves, where they can and can't work, where they can and can't be near children, so that would be self-correcting.
I understand that,
But Trish, the entire
the
demand,
liability be to the town, should a business come in there, the business owner.
If they're gonna block off that window, Those doors will be.
The pre-K wing would be blocked off.
Yeah.
With secured access, so they would not have access to that wing. You know, after them walking down the hallway, they can come, you know what I mean, they can come here, they can go.
Well, right, they can.
Do they check before we own
Yeah.
all
You know,
rooms?
they're not rushing to continue, because it's not.
So I think her concern
I know.
is that if they go to register their car, like, are they breaking the law at that point? Are they not, they have no way to register their vehicle? School, like, does it, as operating, not that we're trying to. But as operating a town office, a
They would
business.
be able to come in and register their cars too.
Like, is there a law that says they have to be and have access to these services?
Unless there was like some sort of protection on, that's the only thing that's gonna see, X, Y, Z person, but if that's segregated off and they're coming in and registering their car, that's fine.
So
They're not residing here, they're not working, the town hall, not working for the school or.
So the kindergarten will be separate, off limits, people would just be able to
Do
walk.
they
out there.
utilize the playroom for a recess or break time?
Yeah,
That's an open area.
yes, we can't like,
That would be a concern now, like, it doesn't.
Right, I
Nothing
get it.
changed,
But we don't, you know, like, we're not operating out of the building. I mean, so I get that we're on the building. But, you know, something for us to do.
The onus would be on them, if they're in violation of something, I don't think that would be, if they're on playground, they're not supposed to be. Regardless of laws, if that's on them, and then they charge.
Person would want to be measured. Have a full-time security, locked off area for the, you know.
well, the kids are always supervised when they're out there, obviously, and that's no different than where they are now, like the ACS. You got a bunch of kids on the playground and it's all supervised staff.
And I think Peter can attest to, he was walking the grounds just to see what needed to be done there and was confronted very quickly by.
Yes.
What,
Committee
were
work.
you the star who were here?
Oh, no, yes.
I'm glad to know that they have, staff that is
Yep.
very diligent in that way,
Yeah.
not all students have that. And sometimes they have it and then they don't. Just something to keep in the future.
Okay, so this is consideration, I know there's been a lot of talk on social media, well, why don't, you know, the police department go down there and sell that property, it is prime property. And so we did dig deep into that, and Beth provided some good information on this. The cost to retrofit the police department would be, I mean, that would be crazy, right? They need to build a
We
salary.
know it's more than what we would have to retrofit,
Right.
have a study on that.
Yeah, you know, we need to build a salary board, persons taken into custody cannot have access to the remainder of the building. Now, when we toured, Deerfield, they have their police department there, and it's just not, so if they have their own entrance, and an exterior entrance to get in. But if someone's being booked and they have to go to the bathroom, they're in a class, right? No bathroom, so the officer has to bring them to a public restroom now, even though they're in handcuffs, you've got those people walking through the building, it's just not a safe environment. You know, dedicated entry and exit to assure emergency responses, so that would be another thing, because now all the cruisers would be parked there. And if they needed to leave an emergency and, you know, there's a bunch of people parked in front of them and it's just not an ideal situation. We explored it, Beth provided some great information. Let's see, yeah, evidence locker with no windows, yeah, it's just not feasible to the police department.
Based on what's that?
Based on what's that?
Dollars.
Well, just building a Sally Port alone and putting security measures in place within the building. And where would you put them? That would be the.
So my thought about that at all would be that the PD needs that building, their building. So, you know, public interaction wasn't a thing that I was thinking in considering this, idea. So, you know, to me, my thought is, what is the cost of this versus the cost of living in a town over there? And versus the cost of putting income that prime real estate might bring in. That's all what I thought about, it's not what I'm stuck on, but I think that's what it's for.
So we'll, okay.
Are you asking like if it was just the police department on there? I think that's great, we all used to their own classroom, they have their own offices. I think the building would be way too big for our needs, quite honestly.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, it's just, would be enormous for what we have, if we were. Manchester, looks at Concord, maybe that would make sense if we had 30, 40, 50 officers, but. I would feel terrible taking that building with 11 people.
I'm glad to hear you say that. These are the things that the public want to hear. They need to hear these things. This is why I ask a lot of these questions, because I know people do listen. They want to do.
Yeah.
Peter DeSantis, I think our biggest, because I was actually pushing this a little bit more so than the other members, but I think, and John brought up mainly that Deerfield was having a lot of issues by having it in a shared facility. So after hearing some of that, we decided that it's certainly at this time, you know, it's not an option. More concentrated on getting down the hall. And possibly library or something.
Thank you, Peter. I've been, once again, this is not an interactive part of the meeting. Thank you.
He's part of our committee.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
It gets out of control real
Okay.
fast, so.
So next slide, John. Okay, the value of the existing town hall. So the current assessed value using an equalization ratio, because Allenstown is only at 70.9% equalization. So the assessed value to this building is 602.4. We can get that would be great, but if you adjust it to 100% equalization, a fair market value would probably be in the line more of 760. So that's this bill. Did you get that? I don't know. But this building, I think, would be an easier sell than AES. Because this would be a developer's dream. I mean, the developer that's got plenty of parking, it's got a great, front yard. I mean, you build 2 great condos in here, you can make it office building. It's got potential, more so than AES.
I understand that. So
Yeah.
with regards to the historical army, I mean, we don't, I don't know what I have looked into what the town has for, treatment of historical buildings and regulations and.
It is not on the reserve rates.
Is
There
school
is
at one point?
But it's not on the historic rates.
No, there's a historical district, and the building is within that historical district. But the building is not on either national or state historic.
And again, with that, you could put easements in the deed to, the facade has to stay, historical looking or whatever. So the next one is. Okay, so financial total budget for the general government buildings, that's in our budget this year is $68,260. And that includes $33,050 that have been budgeted since I believe 2020 in anticipation of converting ADS to the new town hall. Based on rental income, in addition to the current budget, there is adequate funding to support expenditures associated with the building. There is no impact to insurance costs, which really surprised me, because if you take the square footage within this building and you take the square footage there, I thought, okay, it's not quite the fire and stuff insurance on that building. And it does not, because it's an umbrella policy. So there is no insurance impact, but I thought that would be significant, and there is not. So there's that. That is the utilities, that was based on actual expenditures. Based on what's being expensed there right now. And the deficit right there is more than adequate, 30,000 from the free cash.
So it's costing the town 10,000.
difference.
10,105 is the excess.
So I don't want to necessarily go to market rate. I understand the benefit of having the SAU there and that we want to work with them. They
Yes.
are a benefit to us as we are to them. But they should be paying their actual real estate costs. So I think if we look at this and it gives us an opportunity to determine that they've been the only renters in the building. And if this is the cost of the utilities, that is what they are realistically costing.
You're reading it wrong.
They're not.
We have a $10,000
Surplus.
Surplus.
Okay.
Which,
Yes.
right, no, it's a surplus. And those are actual expenditures, yeah,
But in Liberty, we have a negative, or am I reading that wrong?
yeah, but the net effect, so if you look at the first
Okay,
column,
so then it ends up being
Right.
10, so
right, and that does not take into account the 10,000 potential from firemen. Or any other renters that were to come in.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you wanna
Yes.
mention the outdoor lighting is also,
yes, the outdoor lighting is in there, and that was outrageous.
it's outrageous for 2 locations on the property for an outdoor light.
Yeah, it was like $9,000
Yeah.
A year.
For outdoor
Yeah,
lighting.
outdoor lights.
have they been updated?
They're old bulbs.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I would say we can do that smart sense of program through Eversource should come out. And they should basically do it for free for us, they should come out updated.
And Ronnie did research on that, to go inside the building and actually,
And so that bottom line, of $10,000 easily be increased as a surplus to the town.
By decreasing the cost.
Those 2 outdoor
the New Hampshire saves, that's what it
lamp
was.
posts.
Yeah, so New Hampshire saves, we can actually replace everything into LED, including the exterior. Now, there was discussion as well, and I mean, this probably isn't gonna be on the get-go, but to kind of meter everyone, all of the tenants individually. So not only are they renting space, they're paying their own utilities.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not gonna happen
Down the road.
down the road.
So, John, let me ask you, the dollars that were voted into, retrofit or upgrade the AES property, should the town move in there, is there a time limitation on that vote?
No, there wasn't. It's in the capital reserve fund.
And it's earmarked specifically for that.
That I am.
Yeah, so do you wanna go to the next slide? Okay, so existing town hall, these are the more important things to consider, the personal safety in this building, fire safety, building codes, ADA accessibility. Because apparently, the minute you start doing any sort of renovations to this building, that triggers all of the fire codes and life safety codes, so that will be a significant cost. Space constraints, I mean, we have no space here. Let's see, lack of privacy, that's a big thing, voting capabilities.
That would be the same for AES, because when retrofit were in there. Is that included in the urban order?
Yes, yes, that's all. in there. Yeah, and then, if, the vote would be to renovate this property, first of all, you can't use the capital reserve account, so that's number one. And you have to get temporary space to move town hall activities during the construction.
We could, we just have to repurpose the capital reserve funds. And we renovated once without moving out of it. Not saying that, I'm just saying that's not those.
But that would
all of
happen
those
till
arguments are not
next March, it has to go back on.
Yes.
So that was some of those
It would
things.
be inconvenient for sure.
Done. Okay, this is the fire report. Actually, can I throw this your way, Lauren? If you know this lingo better than I.
So our alarm system at this time is severely out. She needs to get the electrical system in this building is severely out. Brian, getting that really go upstairs, use challenge. Yeah, you're not outlets for all business on stickers. Even in the code songs. Everything's electric nowadays. 30 or 40 years ago, it wasn't like that. So that's challenging now. So the second floor egress issue. It's only one way out of the second floor. Because in the new life safety code, they don't recognize that style like, fire. That's the second means of egress. Challenge, it's unenclosed, and the stair ladder is actually too steep, too narrow. It actually classifies being qualified for second egress. So the next challenge we're into is stairwell. So the stairwell does not create a separation or open space for the second floor. Fire on the first floor can go up to the second floor and traffic on the stairs. So that's the challenge we're into. So those are the issues you're going to egress out of the second. And then same electrical upgrades, exercise, commercial lights. There's a lot of spaces in this building that are well. Let's go down to basic one. So basically, that is one big one right now, because the way it was explained to me, PD moved to Allenstown Road, and basically tore everything out when they did. Leaving it the way it is right now, so if you go downstairs, it's one big empty room, so not a mechanical spaces, which is the furnace, none of that stuff is protected room. There's no separation between that space and the first floor. All the floor joists are unprotected, so basically wooden. You start consuming that space, and penetrations through the floor, any pipes, electrical wires, anything like that, are probably still up, so it allows this home fire. So that's the things you run into from just the basement to the first. The next question, as we move up, this ceiling. I believe this thing we dig into, it's like cardboard, it's called so. The question is whether or not when it burns, how well it burns. It's not considered a non-flammable surface. And because it is in the squares, I know what's above it, once you can see it doesn't create a separation between the first and second. Keep fire on the first. Second. That's the challenge. Spaces. So you got this big open space where we don't want. That's actually the hallway that would be the egress for anybody coming from back offices. Fire is here, not them off over there. They came in through the office by the clerk's office. That hallway actually needs to be clean, floor to ceiling, with an envelope to allow that to happen. I'm sure the town manager would love to get out of his office. He's the first one in. So those are the things you have to listen to that first floor hallway. It's a ton of electrical wires just all over the place in the building for probably 40 years of things that have been done. May not have been done correctly, or wires are just stuck in the ceiling to the walls. So those things need to be protected as well. Exits. We already talked about this one. There's only two exits out of this one. It's very difficult. I mean, if you look on the place in some of the prominent, you're only allowed to have 25 people. Pretty small. But that limits the size of this room. How many people you can have in this room? So that's why you get into a larger meeting, or you need to have a larger meeting. Something happens. We'll talk about pretty much just that's not digging down and bringing an engineer in and having an engineer actually things deeper. That's just touching the surface. That's not once you start looking at the ceiling walls, really what you find happens. That's the stuff you don't know what happened in the last 50 years. Last mentioned, around what, 2000 or so, they actually had a lightning strike that had a fire on the attic.
There was a fire.
So there was a fire in the attic of this building one time.
I believe that the house was still charred.
Yeah, it's still burning up there.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring
So there's
it
other things that happen in this building that you don't know about or haven't found.
in. Ghost.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The police report, so Beth, you want me to read the list?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yours is super complex.
I'm trying to work toward this to start picking up with these important parts.
Okay. So the rear door to the main meeting room is not locked. The town clerk windows are secure, however, the employees in that part of the office have no way to get out of the building. Persons once in the building can access the back of the building, you can walls not go completely to the ceiling. The cellar glass door does not have protection from burglary. The second floor fire escape can be told not safe. The securing system is not conducive as to how the building is used, so people cannot use the meeting room while the other building is not secure. It's secure, because it's all secure. It's not secure. Exactly. And the outside lighting is very good. And that's just, this building, I know that we'll look a little bit more in depth to the AES building, who move forward with that. So, right. Okay, the existing town hall, code enforcement and highway department. So the highway department would need a zero-turn lawnmower for their back wheels. They would be using 1 day, 2 people.
So right now, with the current equipment we have, which is 1 zero-turn and 1 typical homeowner lawnmower. It takes 3 guys 4 hours to mow to maintain a basic landscape there. If you watch the zero turns make 4 passes as opposed to 1 with the old John Deere. With the old John Deere riding lawnmower. So I think a zero turn, an additional zero turn mower would help us there. To definitely cut down the number of man hours needed and would honestly help us everywhere else in town as well. It would help us with the PDs, the town, all the other town buildings.
Do you have money to get a zero turn lawnmower?
There's capital reserve accounts for equipment, and we do have a small equipment and repair line. So
you think it would be covered?
It's around 5,000.
Yeah, so we could make it work if we needed to. We looked at the plowing and the plowing needs over there. They are what they are, and as long as they're good, most of the big snowstorms, like we discussed, the schools are closed. If the school's closed, town hall tends to follow the same schedule as the schools. So, it would be something that hopefully we'd be pulling guys off the road to plow. It would be like every other town building, and like the current town hall now is done after the rest of the roads are in good enough shape to do.
What about the need for ultimate maintenance person?
So there was discussion about that, and it was probably 30,000-40,000, but that would be like for someone to do all of the town buildings, not just that building.
A general facility
Managed.
Right.
So if we were to take over the building this year, get going, get in there, would we be able to create that position in the next budget in March?
If we were to get in there now, because it's occupied, I need somebody to be able to do some type of maintenance.
So you need it right away, so that we're not.
As long as 3 schools in there, that building's fine.
With all the demands from all the different departments and facets,
Right.
like there's a lot.
Right,
going
but
on.
the demand is here now, though, without, it's.
But it's not
So-
being filled, and we're asking if we go down the street, we will need to fill that.
Down the road. Yeah.
Well, John's saying right away, we go there.
Well, for that one, yeah, no,
I have no way to respond to the end of the plus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, code enforcement, Brian, you're up.
Thank you. So we touched on electrical outlets and they're just inadequate in this building. And you also got to think about heating and cooling of this building. Well, we need an HVAC system because currently the window units should try to cool it. But then you have to look at the perimeter walls. These perimeter walls most likely are not insulated. That means all of the spots are going to come down and spray foam insulation is going to go in there. And so floor to ceiling walls to isolate the officers from the public. Yeah, that was mentioned earlier. The bathrooms are not ADA, and they're undersized with the amount of people that are in this building. We have one toilet on the first floor, one on the second floor. And the exterior fire escape, yeah, it doesn't meet the code as mentioned. And these windows have to be sized, and this is a bedroom residential home, and it has to be as. You can build a single family home right now, with one door, as long as the bedroom windows are 5.7 square feet. To this day, who would buy a house with one door? But you gotta make sure all these windows, because of these fire escapes and these inadequate things, that you have another way to get out of the building. Not necessarily the occupants jump out, but finally come in from these larger windows. These offices. And I think that's pretty much more comments.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Okay, so, I mean, getting the building for $1, of course, that's extremely big. If we were to build, of course, we could never afford to build. This is based on the square footage of that facility, based on building costs at $150 per square foot. I mean, we're in the $6 to $9 million range if we were to roughly that problem. And where would you put it? Where would you find the land to do it?
6 to 9 million is certainly, yeah, I think it would cost a lot.
A lot more than that, absolutely. So, and then, that does not include costs to purchase the land, the site prep, wells, septics, all of that good stuff. But I think more importantly, it would be the location next to the pavilion at Fairburgers. So after, we met and we kind of tweaked it. I did this presentation when we met at the committee last week, and we went, around the table to, add, change, amend, whatever, get input, and the committee voted unanimously at 8-0 to this is a sound financial thing. Not to mention, I mean, we're just talking a little bit of revenues. I know that Deerfield, and I don't know about Hooksett, you would know about Hooksett, they have a rec field, they have the denied field, right? Right, but do they do it like in a recreation program? Because that's good generating.
Yeah, so they are generating income from those meals,
Yeah.
gym,
Yeah. So, just offering.
they've actually
facility.
just increased agreements.
Did they? Because a lot of the animal towns get go to work after school, work school after school, summer programs. I know when toward Deerfield, it was really neat, and they didn't do it all on day one either. But was it last year, the year before, they did a pickleball court, to bring people, to, economic development, yeah.
Income for, what's it, that gym is used every
Yeah.
single day during inclement weather.
Yeah.
Winter months, every single day.
So it's a facility that can definitely generate revenue. And to pass it up, I know we went around, the whole room, and it was a unanimous decision. So that concludes, and I think everyone, once we all found out where to sign, we all signed it. Yeah. We were like signing it, line that we weren't supposed to be signing it. So that's it. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I will just say that back when we did the charrette a couple years ago, there was a strong onus, and I know our population has changed, our financial situation has changed a bit since then. But there was a strong onus from the public on focusing on our infrastructure, our parks and recreation. There was, people really felt like the community was lacking. And so after seeing your presentation, it does really seem like if it's financially feasible, and it may be, to go ahead and move the town hall there and take advantage of this recreational spot, build up the infrastructure, it's in line with the feedback that I've gotten from builders for the neighbors.
you know, and it's already got the park, the playground.
Yeah, the
area,
playground
like
there,
the,
and we are locating those fields to LWCF grant, there is no out there, we could not sell them, we could not develop them, there's no way to make money on that property, we own it in perpetuity. So that it's important that people understand that, too, that those
And
remain.
the construction cost to access that field.
Yes, yes.
And you had pulled out the map, Jim, so,
Yeah.
you know, it is 800 feet and then there's no way.
No, you would lose it, you'd have to lose the field. Yeah, you'd have to lose the softball field to make it parking lot.
So, there's no other questions, that's kind of a summary of what we've been doing.
Any of your members, maybe you, have any recommendations on when we can start something like this, or where, when you'd like to see something like this started?
I mean, the sooner the better, you know, I mean, we did go around, it was 8-0 unanimous, it makes perfect financial sense and it does, for many, many reasons, and I've got all the supporting information. Those are just bullets.
9-0 if you include the resident that was present.
This is our resident.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter's your committee, are you going to morph into an oversight committee when this project starts? Did I get that right, Diane?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sorry.
Okay. You can monitor.
Sure, I have a couple things. So I've got the minutes here from the last
Yes.
meeting, I finished them. I had one typo, I did T on Eric's name, so I excused T in there. So people, these are the minutes, I sent them out. And you just need to sign above, here.
Above the name.
Above.
All right, let me start. Or actually, yes, just bring it down.
Scott, am I allowed to ask a question? I know it's not an interactive, it's actually a question for John. You came from Deerfield. The town hall in Deerfield is a combination facility and business, right?
There are two businesses.
Okay. So the portion of the building that is being used for the town hall business, it would be tax exempt. Are the businesses in there paying taxes?
They're required by UDRA law.
Yeah, okay.
To pay their own property taxes for their
That's what I thought.
portion. Right.
Okay,
So everything's prorated by square footage.
okay, thank you.
So I know about budget and that, we talked about a facilities manager and taking on that thing. Just remember though, we already have some departments doing some of that type of work. Like highway department might be, or fire department might be doing some of those things and taking away from what they should be doing, so. It may not be a full funding thing, and it's actually reallocating what probably is already happening. The future requires that. I think we're gonna have to, at some point, have something, especially if you start renting out the gym and businesses, it's obviously.
I think we'll be
Town manager.
the full-time facilities person for sure. Yeah, just seeing the onslaught of people with sports right when we took ownership of the building. I think there was a kind of
Imagine if we were charging for the use of that gym.
Yeah, there's definitely a path.
This is
Sorry.
preschool themselves actually do custodial services.
For their section. Yes, just.
But as senior, just like staff.
The last thing, I just want to reiterate what I put in the email that I sent out last night, it was for the minutes. I want to thank everybody that was on the committee, came to every meeting. You know, put in all the work and the analyses and the, you know, the input. It was a good committee, it was good.
It was an eye opener.
It was a
Yeah.
good exercise to go
Yeah.
through, and, you know, look at a lot of stuff that some people already do, but not everybody. And, you know, none of us is as smart as all of us. It was a good group, we worked well together, respected other people's positions, expertise, and I think it was good. We did what made sense to me.
And if I can add to Peter's point, I mean, if you look in years past, the highway department has spent hundreds of hours that wasn't going to follow along. never mind. You know, I mean, if you look just around the building, the highway department did all the metal on the windows outside, the highway department painted all these rooms, the highway department painted all of them. We put down half the floors in the building.
But my point is that we take on this project,
Oh.
we're getting asked for a lot of money from a lot of different directions.
get it.
I've never going to a default budget, and if we decide to go this way, we need to be cognizant that this is one more demand, one more slice of that little pie of money that we have, that we are gonna have to. It's a need, if we go forward with buying this building and turning it into.
Yeah, and I would go so far as saying, you know, that it would be ideally, it should be put to the voter this, you know, proving being that we are in a default budget, that and separate that item out and maybe other so allow the voters to say no to an overall default budget, but yes to certain things that are needed. There, I'd like to look for a vote.
Are you ready to vote, or are you? I know you guys sat on a committee, I don't know if Trish did it, where she just got the packet.
Look at it prior to this meeting, but, you know, questions. You know, again, most of those questions is for.
Okay, just to get it on the right.
So, before we make the motion, for the purposes of the minutes, according to the procedure that I wrote that kicked this whole thing off, we need to clearly state that the committee has served its purpose, the committee is now dissolved, this committee, and tonight was the last meeting. The minutes are, from the committee are secure, are done, so the minutes from this meeting will state that the committee is done, the task is performed, and we'll move for a vote. So I'd like to make a motion that the town move forward with converting the Alstown Elementary School located at 30 Main Street into the new town hall.
All in favor?
Tricia.
Kathleen, I.
Diana, Laura.
Scott.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
That was a lot of work.
Yes, it was a lot of time in a hot big gym with legs that keep flipping. The acoustics in that gym are terrible. Terrible. Oh, you're gonna, I think. So it's here if you want to do.
Yeah, that's gonna take more. So other business.
You want to say? No, I don't want to know, but I'm not gonna sit here.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay, that's what I see.
Back to our
Sure, yeah.
regular agenda. Option. That would be Addis City employee handbook. You just want opinions here?
Based on the conversation we had at our last meeting, I handed out the MRI data collected during the study. And from what I heard, I think the board was leaning more towards a solid figure rather than a percentage of the family plan. So I drafted this language that if tonight would appear in the employee handbook. Now, again, you still have any kind of opportunity to adjust that figure, but that was the figure talked about at the last meeting.
And I think it's competitive, it doesn't put us top of the line, there are other buyouts that will be looked at, you know, if a husband or wife works someplace where they offer a higher buyout, where they're not gonna take our
But if you
buyout.
look comparatively amongst the towns,
Yeah.
we were right in that
Yes,
range.
this falls. So I'm good with it, I just thought it was easier doing a straight amount of 3,000, and a little easier for us to control. We're doing a 10%. It's kind of nice because it does fluctuate as cost goes up. It keeps pace with inflation kind of on its own with giving that buyback to the employees, but the whole point of doing this was a cost saving measure. And we could always.
You can always adjust.
Yeah, we felt it wasn't working out over time, other towns were doing, you know, that 10% was becoming more common, we could always take a look at it. I liked this first step. That was just my.
When I was looking through it all, I just kind of averaged all the numbers from across all the towns in this sheet here. So it's 10% what we're doing, and I think maybe just upping it a little bit to make it more incentive wise, because I think I've heard around town with the increase of the deductibles in the health insurance that people are willing to and I just think to maybe just be a little bit more competitive with other towns. To make it a little bit more, you know, incentive for them to stay here, you know, if they don't have insurance.
For the
It's just,
buyouts.
yeah,
Yes, that wouldn't help with the.
No,
Okay.
No, I know that, I'm just kind of saying that, you know, there's a little measure there. And I guess maybe to make the pot a little bit richer, to maybe up it. Yeah, for them. Just about. So I just went up to 15% of what we have on the sheet here. So it'd be around, instead of 3,164, it'd be 4,700.
No, that's too high. I would do that's too high. The point of this is we want to be competitive, but this is like looking at the insurance benefits and keeping the HRA with a plan that offers an HSA. It was like I'm looking for a win-win that would benefit the employees and that would benefit the employer. The point of this really, the onus is on the town. Like we want it to be attractive.
We did have savings for our insurance, so
Yeah.
I don't assume insurance.
Yes, that's why we had to do it, because we were 350,000 over budget last year on insurance, we only had to. And if we continue to add more employees, full-time employees, it's gonna keep expanding.
Well, it was just something
Yeah.
that I was thinking also.
But that just is, to me, that seems much higher, 15% is much higher. Yeah.
So I'm bring it up.
I need a motion. I'm gonna make an amendment, change the employee handbook, and I will send it out to you electronically tomorrow. There's not knowing what we were gonna do this evening, I couldn't wrap.
Yeah, we can vote on it and
Absolutely. Now, are you comfortable with the language and the amount?
I am.
So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the employee handbook to include section 11A, insurance health option.
Second.
All in favor?
At what amount?
At 3,000
On the code, you know.
on the close of the account.
Per fiscal year.
Fiscal year, per fiscal year.
Thank you. You seconded, Trish? Oh, Diane, all in favor?
Trisha.
Kathleen, I.
Are you not? Laura.
Scott.
Thank you.
I gotta hear, annual letter from. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Yeah, no, that's what I was pulling up.
Oh, go ahead.
Letter from-
Last one.
Yeah,
If we're moving into other business, we have to count an integrated report for that, people like that.
Just have two items this evening. One, I need to come to the board to approve using capital reserve fund, the Parks and Rec capital reserve fund. Summer tubes were purchased, put in the bollards down the rail trail, the amount of $174.78. We have previously expended all the monies associated with the rail trail out of the Parks and Rec capital reserve fund. current balance in there is 125,688. So I'd be asking the board to approve a further expenditure of 174,70.
If you prove there's enough money in there to cover that, I'm comfortable. Yeah, you got it.
Motion on that?
I do, thank you.
I make a motion that, we approve the town administrator to use $174
78 cents
and 78 cents out of the parks.
capital reserve fund
fund.
for sonotube for the rail
Balance.
trail, for the parks.
That's so.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Tricia, Kathleen, I. Diana, Laura.
Start. Thank you very much. Also received a letter from the building inspector, Brian Arsenault. Request. That's in your packet of correspondence.
I saw that. No.
You didn't get it. That's why Brian's here. Scott has the letter.
Oh, Scott has, okay.
It's addressed to us, from Brian. I would like to make a move for a health condition that I am experiencing on April 19th. I fell off the type of ladder and damaged my shoulder. I got healed after 60 days. Various remedies, at least an MRI X-ray after a recent MRI and X-ray. It was determined that surgery would be solution to heal. I am having a procedure on July 21st, which will I tried annually for 6 weeks. Utilizing short-term disability the town provides as a benefit would not be ideal for myself being the town health inspector for 6 weeks. A hybrid remain at work disability management are not an option. It is either one or the other. I am suggesting that I would in office work Monday and Thursday and work remotely on Tuesday. The schedule may change, but provides coverage utilizing email and phone, text, and pictures to meet the weekly demands of the community. If acceptable, I will be leaving the town provided vehicle, or the town provided vehicle department while the town until I am covered. It would be best and utilize my personal vehicle to commit to town every days. I just want to add to this letter that I'm very happy with the town employees. And it pleases me that coming to work is not trying, rather fulfilling to work as a team to address the issues of residents. You got enough work on? What's that? That's good.
So,
Nice kid, nice kid.
would the medical professional, your primary care or the surgeon, state that that would be something that you could do? You know, they're not gonna say you need to remain in work completely, that kind of thing. I want to make sure we're meeting that one.
I have not had surgery yet, but I will have discussions with my primary care physician, saying this is my approved work schedule at work. Is that something that he sees is obtainable? And then I'll let you know.
You know, kind of approve that. I don't, you know, labor laws and medical limits are not something that we should mess around with. So if the physician is saying to you, we, then that behooves us to approve that we are trying those steps.
I understand that if he states that I have to be out of work completely, I will let John know to see the town administrators purview to monitor the employees, that it's not a deal that I need to maintain.
And you're just asking for this arrangement while you're recovering, just for this is for recovery, and then you would resume your regular work.
Yes, we'll be roughly after the.
Okay.
You know, when you told me this morning, I didn't register, because he told you
I'm trying to think how long I could buy. That's correct. I'm not sure of my limitations. I just want to let the board know that if in fact I cannot do it, then of course the seal is no good. But now you have to hire a company like MRI to come in as a building inspector at that cost for 6 weeks. Well, I'm willing to do it remotely with pictures and phone calls and emails. And then, instead of a 2-day remote, it could be 4-day remote until the payment is complete. But I'm still willing to participate.
Do you have any medical paperwork from your doctor stating this?
Not yet,
Okay, so that's
surgery.
okay, that would be something.
So we looked at, we're okay with it, pending medical verification that.
I like that.
And I mean, and just to add that, if Brian needs something measured or something taken, better picture or eyes on it, I'm more than happy to, for the first few weeks or whatever, to help him out with anything.
Thank you.
How does it affect the municipal agreement we have with Pembroke?
I'm not.
That agreement has not been in place for quite some time. I think what we're looking to do is make that situation for both Brian as an employee and the town itself. Given that funds are not plentiful, I would hate to have to go out and spend for an additional position. As long as we could make it work legally within labor laws and according to Brian's limitations. And I think there's enough support people around to make that happen.
I agree. So do we need to make a motion, or can we just verbally say we're okay and we expect to see that medical paperwork?
Sure. I prefer a motion that makes it cleaner.
So I will make a motion to extend a hybrid in-person and remote work schedule to the building inspector during at least the first 6 weeks after his surgery, or as indicated by his doctor.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Trisha, Kathleen, aye. Laura,
Scott.
And should anything change or the situation change, I will notify you immediately. And we'll decide how to move forward.
That's a lot.
Yeah, thanks. My last surgery is 1972. I'm not a big fan of surgery.
I keep using sleep just to get home.
Scott told me how wonderful it is. Experienced the joys of propofol. And I hope after this I get both my knees done. No, you
All right, that's all I have. On any other business before I speak, those are
Yeah.
number of talks that we need are sitting here. Diane, you had Jocelyn said.
Yeah, I just got that.
I don't
You all
know.
should have any-
Yes, but before we do that, town business. So this is a draft procedure of like the second phase of this project, I guess we call it. So the first phase where people did a bunch of analysis, what we just saw tonight. So this procedure is gonna take us through like monitoring the construction, monitoring, invoices, because we know money's tight, so we wanna make sure that we don't, as we slip through the cracks and we get like an unpleasant surprise, like, oh, something costs way more. So this, what I did was I built on the first procedure, so some sections are pretty much the same. Some are different because the roles have kind of changed now, so we need to monitor costs with regard to the $450,000 we have in the fund, in the trust fund. So really the differences are the roles have changed a little bit. And I added town administrator will now have a role in finance, because now we need to start monitoring the paperwork with invoices. Estimates versus invoices versus, they invoice us with the work, did somebody go down there and make sure the work was done, if they invoice us for $9, are there $9 down there,
Most companies are stretched for, employees, so, people make mistakes. That happens. So if you could take a read through this and get back to John with any comments. If we can sign this at our next meeting, this at least gets us going. Because we need to start, making phone calls and getting estimates. The sooner is better. Especially to, kick off the public service, Eversource to, get the lighting changed, because I bring our bills down like soon. So the sooner we can get that out, so thank you for putting that together. Yeah, you're welcome. So here, if you have any comments, get back to John, and get back to me. But this is, I expect this to be a starting point. As we go through the project, it's going to be a much longer project than 45 days. So we'll revise this as we go along. As we have questions or based on what's happening, we'll revise this. Probably get revised 10 times. Is that anything? Yes. Oh, no, I just okay. Okay.
Yeah, we get this every year. I'm not sure if it comes from Johnson, but it's an invite for March. They'll try and get golf carts, but there are no promises, and they judge the parade floats from the reviewing stand. If you go, maybe you'll have a different experience than like I did. None of them even acknowledge the purpose. They're still not parents, but I went. It was fun, I guess. So those who would like to go, and they might still hear quite well because they sing out.
The EDC. CBA. I know.
I think they were just giving an example, and I'm interested in going. I don't know this year. Unfortunately, we are in town.
Are you going to march on the parade? Would you get a fire truck? You know, it's always give us a birthday.
I'll be here because Chad will be putting out homes.
And you'll be setting up lawn chairs.
That's right.
Since we're going to go ahead with a yes, we convert that to visit proposal here from FireMed LLC, the fire chief. That was late this afternoon, chief. So I'm not sure if anyone else has it packet. I'll read it quickly. This is from FireMed. Dear Chief, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to continue our relationship with the Allentown Fire Department by providing firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 courses. Please find an agreement below which will discuss arrangements for firefighter courses. This agreement supersedes all other agreements regarding firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 courses. The Allentown Fire Department used to offer educational space, tools, props, and building equipment necessary for training firefighter students. Firemen LLC, term Firemen LLC agrees to pay the Allentown Fire Department $2,500 course for the use of said equipment up to 3 burn days at the Allentown burn building per firefighter 1 and or $2,000 per firefighter 2 class for the use of the equipment up to 3 burn days at the Allentown burn building. In addition, the Allentown Fire Department shall receive 1 firefighter student for fire course at no cost with the enrollment of 10 paying students. Should the enrollment be less than 10 paying students, the student enrollment shall be at discretion of the fireman. This does not affect or take the place of the student enrollment in the Allentown Fire Department. Firemen in this class. In addition to the 5 course fee, firemen students in the Allentown Fire Department a flat $350 fee for every student requires NFPA money to turn up here with student self-contained reading apparatus per student Sorry. Flat $350 fee for every student who requires an MBA plan. Turnout here with scuba and it's just per student, $150 for class time, testing, and fire.
We provided them, I would need to, I wanna look at this in the original one, yeah, there's a lot in there that I would need time to look at that.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, let me finish this.
Yeah.
All instructors while working firemen, LLC classes shall be compensated by firemen. At no time shall an off-duty Allenstown on Allenstown Fire Department member take part in fire training or evolution. Off-duty members are always welcome to the permission, the Allenstown Fire Chief, fireman, program director, instructor, my data. This agreement shall be for initial one-year term to basis of members of this term. I'll pass that.
So,
I guess we need to.
off the top of my head question, that was a lot of information on that. Where was that?
That's a fire station.
I thought I heard AES.
And it will be in
Just
the
wanted to
future.
make sure.
That's the plan for the future of the AES.
Then they're looking to, what's the effective date?
That will be today.
The understanding
Yeah.
is they wouldn't be moving in AES until all of that. preliminary
Well, that's why
work would be
I'm
done.
sure that that's what's getting.
The building would have to be brought up to code,
Yeah.
bathrooms would need to be ready because technically that's public coming in.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure that I'm clarifying that that's the proposal.
You have a current written agreement with them.
Yeah, we have a written agreement that was really done 2 years ago. And the only difference in there is the use of the SCBA in the year, he pays a fee for rentals, for maintenance and any damage that happened. He has way exceeded the fact that if something is broken, he repairs it at no cost to us. What he's paying for is the use of that, because there is time involved. And we use it if they're available, not when it's not available. So essentially what he's saying is like the town in the agreement would help train firefighters utilizing the equipment. And the reason why the money goes into a fund is to offset those costs. So we need to buy gear and as you go along. His intent is to buy gear of his own, but as we move graduate into this process, then that's what he pays us to utilize the gear. And it's been for almost a year now.
So the difference is he was just paying if there was a repair needed, but he's entitled to the equipment no matter what.
No, the difference was he was paying for the equipment originally. We upstairs payments, because we agreed to a higher payment for the maintenance on the apparatus. The use is a different problem. And that's for the use of it, because we have a 15-year lifespan on the aircraft, and as you use them, we do training with them also too, and they get damaged, so it's definitely abuse on the apparatus, on the gear, the abuse on the equipment, so that way we can fund replacement or maintenance. Or if he damages it, he takes care of it.
Do we have a capital for the air tax?
We most certainly do.
It's just equipment that you normally have on you, and that
If we don't have it, he leases it from another company.
what is profit margin.
So as we discussed in meetings before, we did this, and this is our first round of the training rounds, so when I get the information, how many classes is gonna be used, predicting 7. That number times classes, so depending on students that are enrolled in class and students that actually need gear. It could be anywhere between 7,000, which we've taken already this year for one class, to 40,000. That's the thing, like I said, in the enrollment plan, I don't factor that money coming in, because this is one of the things we rent. We put it in there, we use it for offset. Again, we conserve.
Where they hold, in holding these funds here.
That's the fire station. Yeah.
What's been,
Like I told you, this year we made 7,000 fire classes, 80 and 2 classes is a flat rate $1,000 if you have no students. It's $500 if you have no students in the EMT class. The paramedic consortium can be anywhere between a student in the class at the cost of no expensive up to $18,000 or a minimum of as he has stated related before is once we get the class going, he's going to pay us to be the sponsor. It could be 3,000, it could be 5,000 based on the market. So again, those are numbers that I can't speculate and I can't confirm because until the process goes through, I won't know in hard.
I want to see the previous one, just because I don't have anything to compare it to. And it doesn't seem like it's an emergency, it's not something that has to be imperative that it be signed tonight. I just want to see the change in the contract, where from what changes I'm authorizing, what am I authorizing?
You have that.
Yeah.
I think
so
so.
get away 2 weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll put it on the next agenda.
Thank you.
There's a resolution here, you folks have seen it in the packet. Anyone like to volunteer to read this? It's I read the last June. This regards the changes to the EDC.
I'll take it.
How the EDC will be.
Whereas the town of Allenstown has a desire to enhance the economy of the town by increasing prosperity, employment, industry, and commerce. The Board of Selectmen hereby recreates the Economic Development Committee. The Allenstown Economic Development Committee shall be responsible for promoting the economic prosperity of the town by creating and retaining jobs and increasing the tax base through projects, programs, and activities, and shall perform such other duties as are prescribed by federal, state, and local law. The committee may receive staff support from the departments of the town, other public, nonprofit, and private entities as the select board authorize. The EDC is a committee created by the select board to advise and assist the board in accomplishing the objectives of the town regarding economic development. The committee shall consist of a total of 5 members, with up to 3 alternate members who can attend and participate at meetings, but can only vote in the absence of a regular member. 4 members who are citizens of the community and a member of the planning board. The select board shall appoint members to the committee for a 3-year term on a staggered basis. The planning board shall appoint its representative to the committee. The committee will make an annual report to the town in the town report as to its activities. The committee will appoint its own officers as needed on an annual basis and may consult with any person of its choosing. The committee has authority to expend funds that are included in its annual budget in accordance with the town's purchasing and financial policies. The committee shall propose an annual budget to the select board in accordance with the procedures established by the board. Members of the committee shall serve without compensation. Committee members must comply with the policies and procedures of the town. The committee shall be responsible for the coordination of its meetings to include posting of agendas, creation of minutes, and coordination of the physical location where the meetings will be held. The commission shall comply with the applicable provisions of RSA 91A. The minutes of the commission's meetings shall be filed with the town clerk in accordance with the provisions of RSA 4158. This resolution was approved by the Board of Selectmen on June 30th, 2025.
So there seems to be a conflict in there about, first it states that the select board would be appointing the members, and then it goes on to say that the EDC would be appointing the members. So maybe there's some rewording that needs to be there. You know, the EDC would make a recommendation to the select board for the appointment of the members. It's stating that both select board and EDC would be making the appointment.
Well, the EDC votes the people in, and then they've got to do the oath form, or an oath request, and then it comes here, in fact, we have two of them, so you can hold it. So,
So the EDC makes the first selection, but we finalize.
right, because they need the people to go to the meeting and agree to be on the committee and commit, so they take the first
The way
step.
it's worded, it sounds like both. Yeah, I just don't, to me, you know, we're the appointing board.
Yep.
So the appointment comes from us, the recommendation comes from them.
Right.
So
change it,
Yeah.
just that the EDC will recommend and
Go
then.
back to Kathleen, she gave our money,
Well,
she marked it out.
Let's see
Well,
where it is.
it's helpful if we give him the right words.
I think it's down here. No,
The select board shall appoint members of the committee.
oh, here, and then the committee will appoint its own officers. So that's the piece that needs. to be
Maybe you just change appointed to recommend and we can still sign it. And John can just do it with the first
So
page.
we can just put the committee will recommend.
Yeah.
its own
Yes,
Yeah.
officers.
Yeah.
So one word, easy peasy.
Change it tomorrow.
Thank you.
We can still sign
But you're
it.
gonna sign it
I'm sorry, that's
That's the whole point, is to sign it tonight.
I'm sorry, I had a question about one other area in here. It specifies about retaining jobs, and increasing the tax base. I mean, by creating and retaining jobs, I'm not sure how the EDC would accomplish that, and if that's really a realistic goal. Maybe creating opportunity for businesses and employment, something like that.
I'm on the EDC, can I make a mention of that?
Go ahead.
One of the things we're working on now is to contact all current businesses in town and asking what we can do to assist in some, in a way. We're reaching out to the businesses in the community and see how we can help them from a municipal or type of level to get some more interaction, so kind of indirectly maybe, you know, if businesses don't leave or
Yeah,
new businesses come in, I mean,
I understand what you're saying, but this is stating that the EDC would be creating and retaining jobs. I don't think that's a realistic goal.
So we can change it to assist
Right.
to create and retaining jobs. Can you pen again? By assisting. The creation and retention.
That was it, that's all I had. Thank you.
So you still have to sign it.
It's down here.
Well, then it is that.
Alright, it's here. Start with this.
And
Thanks,
you'll need a motion in a second.
Okay.
Approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Kathleen, Diane and I, Laura.
Mr. DeSantis,
yes,
I have an oath of office here.
yes.
I've never done one of these, and the last time I did something like this, I ended up in an army uniform, so. I can do that from here. I haven't done one before, John, but,
Yep.
I, Peter DeSantis,
I, Peter DeSantis,
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will bear faith and true allegiance. I'm sorry.
Did I read it?
Sorry.
Did I just read it?
You know what?
I'm sorry, that's been an awful lot. I, Peter DeSantis, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof, so help me God. I, Peter DeSantis, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Economic Development Committee for a term of 3 years, expiring on 4/30/2028, according to the best of my abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of this Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
Very good.
I'll sign.
Yeah, sign there, we'll sign the bottom.
Okay.
Should we take a vote? Take an appointing motion,
Okay.
you can do all three of them if you need.
Okay, let's do that. The other two, we might just be signing the bottom and swearing it in later. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, Crystal signed hers.
Yeah, you're easy.
Elizabeth has not.
Yeah, he'll sign it. So we can sign it.
You wanna do the motion on all three?
Okay, yeah. I make a motion to appoint Peter DeSantis, Crystal Robbins, and Elizabeth Joyce to the Economic Development Committee.
I'll second that. Krishna, Kathleen, aye.
Diana, Laura.
Thank you, Peter. I wish the other two were here to thank. It's so hard to get folks to volunteer for anything. And this relates, this is the contract for Jack's new town shed. You folks seen this in your packet?
Yeah.
Okay. I move that the board of selectmen approve and sign this budget proposal from Constructs Incorporated, Plymouth, New Hampshire, to build a new town shed. For the price of $378,000.
It's not gonna be okay.
All in favor? Questions in chat? No, we'll wait for a long time to see this.
What's
that?
Questions?
Money that's already.
Yeah, so 178, I think, or something like that will come out of that was appointed by the opera
Right.
fund, and the other will come out of the capital reserve account, which has 400 and change, 400 and a year.
491,000.
Impact some others, I'm saying, person sitting at that.
No, because it's dedicated to the building, so I can't do much else than build a building with it.
This is all what you expected to do. Okay.
That's the price in the erection of the building. That's the purchase of the actual building and the erection of the building.
Scott, you asked for a vote, right? Vote.
We got
I second.
you got a motion, you got a second, and we're waiting for all in favor.
All in favor?
Kathleen, aye. Diana, Laura.
Scott. I know this is a lot of work, but we had a chance to read the meetings from last meeting.
Yep.
Any correction?
Diane,
Yeah, but I looked at it on my computer and I hard to find it on. It was
one of
letter.
those little ones, yeah,
It was just white letter.
Said that, instead of that.
That's not here, it's not important, it doesn't change.
Here's another larger error. If you look at the name printed, it's incorrect, right at the very front top of the minute. Should be Noella, Noella. Tebow. I believe it's misspelled.
In the roll call, for the
The Boston Cane Award
Maybe well, it should be well.
Oh,
should be Noella, Noella.
got it.
Tebow is Thibeault. So you'll need to sign in correction portion.
Yeah, and it's right here. Over budget. Yes, basic, yeah, basic. Okay, so we'll, yeah, yeah. So Diane, you, she, I got this right here, but I think you have to put it in. Yeah.
Okay, two more things here to sign. One is from the town to the Department of Revenue Administration.
I need to interrupt you. Did you take a vote on motion on the minutes here?
Want me to go ahead and do that? I make a motion that we accept the public minutes from June 30th with the corrections.
Minuella changed to Noella and Basie changed to Basie.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Kathleen, I, Laura.
Scott. And this is the one that Kevin dropped off, telling the Department of Revenue Administration that we will be not using PA-28 form in 2026. My knowledge on that.
It's an annual form, we have to report it to the RA, how we're going to report on it.
Oh, okay, so is that?
One method
the
or
news
another.
report from the state, is that what it is, so.
We're just informing them we're not using a particular form, we're going to do it alternate.
I moved that the board allowed, there's only one signature strong. I moved that the board allowed silence.
So we need a second.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Second.
Laura,
Yes.
Thank you much.
So what is the difference? What does it do for us or not do for us?
It's just a preference.
there's a preference beyond that, I cannot.
Right.
You second one?
Yes.
All in favor?
Tricia.
Kathleen,
Diane, I. Laura.
Scott.
He's fine.
I'm not sure if we're all assessing officials.
Yeah, that's all.
Yes, you are. Three board members.
Oh.
You take a motion and a second.
No, he's letting us look at it.
Thank you.
Or do you want to make the motion to accept them?
It's right here. Motion to.
Yeah, it's.
That's an assessment of all the state and federal lands and buildings, you know, on funds and what's.
But is there a phrase off here, like, should she just refer to it that we're approving the PA 16?
I would use the title at the top of the page.
Yeah, that's, okay, all right. I make a motion that we, fill out and accept the application for reimbursement to towns and cities in which federal and state forest land is situated. It is filled out and just.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Commissioner Kathleen, I.
Diane,
Scott. Any other business before the board?
I did want to talk about, that additional holiday that we did vote through last time. In light of the information that I didn't consider at the time of voting through it. With the overtime pay that our police and fire would need to provide on that holiday. I don't know if we want to reconsider it, make it a closing holiday, that way we, register in a way that would be have less impact on the overtime. Just want to kind of throw that out there, if we want to reconsideration.
When it's mentioned in Cotton here too, you just vote on like they do, but you can't stand taxpayers and costs. Consideration, the right thing to do, so no, we can say doubles.
If we did it as a floating holiday, would that minimize?
So I don't know that, I know we passed that in the past.
Because I think the issue is that they have to work on, no, but the issue is that the reason they're being paid is because they have to work on a holiday. When you mean off a floating holiday, they can take it at any time, they don't have to work their holiday. They're not, they're just getting, yeah. Like, so we could change it to a floating holiday and that would mitigate, should mitigate that some. It should be a holiday.
No, you use a per diem to cover it.
It's no cost money, you may not.
Right, but it's not costing you overtime money, it's
Yeah,
costing you a regular.
that's my understanding that you have.
If a per diem does not take it, then it's going to, so it may incur overtime. If the per diems have to.
But it's not guaranteed to wait.
It's, they need to bear some cost.
As a floating holiday, even for the police, your officers would be able to take that holiday whenever they want to. It wouldn't result in any overtime.
If it were scheduled for that day, I think
It's not overtime, it's time and a half because it's a holiday.
I think we do that already with the video for Thanksgiving holiday.
The Black Saturday.
Yeah. It'll some we work all the.
Yeah.
I understand, so. Floating holiday, I mean, you still have the shifts, backfill shifts.
Right,
But now you select, each individual would elect what date their holiday fall. Right, so if they holiday on a work on that elected day, then yeah, it's the same. It's still.
It would still have to be back.
It was talking to me that, you know, that they're supposed to be working a shift and they are taking the holidays, someone else has to. We're still paying that person above and beyond their 40 hours to back up something else.
And if somebody takes it, they'll put the vacancy up and they fill it, now you're paying double time and a half.
It has the same price tag, it just wouldn't be on the same day. And I really, I thought about this after, like the idea of doing the phone holiday, it's not even gonna be done. Yeah, they are, if somebody has other different religions, that, you know, there's a holiday that's not recognized, then they take that in. But it does have the same price. So, question for you, John, so from a budgetary perspective, adding this holiday in, where does that put us? You know, from a budget, making the budget of.
So you wouldn't realize it until 2026. Because we've already passed.
Yeah.
But if you would add a floating holiday this year.
That, we experience that now.
Right.
This year instead of next year. And I read the study from MRI and they said that it was one of their top recommendations. And I know that the state, a lot of other entities do offer more holidays. So I'm comfortable with the decision.
But
I think you should consider the employee impact versus the budget.
Yeah,
Two
well,
different.
it was the part impact, I mean, you know,
Well,
Diane brings up a good point. It's always that same one day. You know, for every employee, it's.
But they still would have to find shared coverage.
I'd like to change the word holiday, so it doesn't. They take you to the things if you want, or.
We could make it effective.
26. Does that work?
So the conversation is very low.
Oh,
What are you proposing?
to change the day that the Juneteenth holiday that we voted on to a floating holiday instead of the Juneteenth holiday effective in 2026. It's Juneteenth holiday, it passed it.
So, but then there is still the question of the default property.
Well, we have that now, we voted on that last week,
Yeah, I
we
know.
already hit that situation, we already spent the money. Well, that's a good reconsider, so I'm reconsidering changing to floating holiday, you're thinking, taking it away.
I'm just asking all the questions. Right.
Our generations.
We did get. We did sure we are. Keeping our due diligence.
So good,
I mean,
we could request that actual.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see us changing the vote on, but we could put
Yeah.
it on hold and find out
Of course.
what's lost.
It's not that, it wouldn't, it's not till 2026 anyways.
Right.
Yeah,
So you have it now, John?
It will cost the same as any other holiday. Hasn't changed. So whatever.
In addition,
I think Trish wants to know.
Columbus Day is costing, or, well, still, you're gonna pay holiday pay and then time and a half.
right, but this is a new additional holiday, so if we're looking at what is that additional dollar amount, maybe we consider it our vote.
I will calculate
Did you
any holidays
did you
by the
calculate
calendar
everything?
year.
6,800.
I don't want to take a holiday. I just want to do our due diligence. Our voters are watching, they want to know that we're looking.
So the vote stands. For now.
Yeah.
I'll have that information at the next meeting.
John?
Make a motion to ratify the consent calendar for July 14th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Trish, I.
Kathleen, I.
Diana, Laura.
Scott.
I make a motion to approve the 2025 check manifest 149 in the town payroll manifest of July 10th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Tricia.
Kathleen, I, Laura,
Scott.
Now, I do have a question. I noticed that we're being charged for the ice rink water.
Yes, we're putting stuff. That's for a meter or a spigot that use, so we're having that discount.
Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. And let's adjourn the meeting at 9:14 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Tricia.
Kathleen, I.
Scott.
Exercise.